Chapter 12-14. Xiao Bei was still assembling. Her movements were very skilled. It seemed that what she was assembling now was not her first time. Soon, something that looked like a tank appeared. To be precise, it should be an infantry transport vehicle. The wheels were made of rubber and did not have tracks. Xiao Bei was very skilled in using screwdrivers and wrenches. There were many items in the box that did not need screws to fix. Su Yilong, look, not all parts can be fixed with bolts when they are assembled. Because in that case, you will find that the other parts of the thing you are assembling are stuck and there is not enough space. At this time, you need to use parts that can bite into each other. For these parts, we spent a lot of effort. We have to tell our ideas to brother first, and then let brother and sister figure out what should be specially made for that position. Xiao Bei was finally like a normal child at this time. Like many children, she showed off to others when she was working. Moreover, she was mumbling as she assembled. No one knew who she was talking to. Using a part with grooves on both ends to fix the wheel and the small axle together, Xiao Bei muttered to herself and suddenly laughed. Su Yilong, why do I feel that your name sounds like a girl's? Why aren't you called Su Linglong? Xiao Bei asked. Su Yilong was focusing on the thing that Xiao Bei was assembling. When she heard her words, she came back to her senses and became silent with a depressed expression. When Xiao Bei was about to continue talking about her name, she cleverly opened her mouth first and asked, "The wheel you are holding looks familiar. It seems that the bicycle wheel sold in the capital is made of the same material as the one you are holding." "It's not the same. The bicycle wheel is inflated, but mine is dead." "Speaking of bicycles, I thought of something. Did you buy one? Remember, if you want to use it in Chang and City, you can choose those with thin wheels. If you want to ride it out, you have to buy one with wide wheels. If you bring the bike over, I can help you modify it so that you can go uphill easily. That's because the gears at the bottom of the bike, to put it simply, is the lever principle. So you're asking, what's the use of this principle, right?" Xiao Bei stopped what she was doing and took out a piece of paper from the side. On it was the assembly steps of the components. At this moment, Xiao Bei was still holding a component that was supposed to be used in one of the steps, but that step had already passed. For a moment, Xiao Bei was at a loss. She didn't think that saving a part was a good sign. While thinking about what went wrong, she said to Su Yilong. Su Yilong didn't know about the difficulties Xiao Bei was facing now, and said, "I know, it's the power multiplied by the power arm, which is equal to the resistance multiplied by the resistance arm." "That's right, so if the front and back gears of the bicycle can change their sizes at any time, then you can adjust the distribution of power at will." But there was a problem in the middle, and that was that it had to be accurate. It couldn't just throw away a random part. For example, the small gear in my hand should be on the axle. Otherwise, this car could only move forward and not backward. Yes, that's right. If this set of modules wanted to move, it had to be on the gear. So now you see, I have finished the assembly steps in front, but the gear wasn't put in. Do you know what to do? Xiao Bei finally found the problem with the instructions on the diagram. The gear in her hand was made of hard plastic. Because the requirements for precision were not high, she could easily put it on the axle, and then connect the axle with the gear on another module through it. Su Yilong kept nodding. Xiao Bei's words were difficult for him to understand. He never thought that one day, children's toys would be like this. There were all kinds of parts. In his opinion, even if he was given the diagram, he couldn't assemble it. There were too many, and he didn't know how Xiao Bei remembered it all. Hearing Xiao Bei's question, he hesitated and replied, "Do you have to take it apart and reassemble it?" "That's right. I have to dismantle the first two steps now. According to the terminology, it's called rework. It's a very annoying thing. From now on, we know that we have to be serious when doing things. Otherwise, when we find out that we did something wrong, it will be more tiring to go back and correct it." Xiao Bei frowned and started to dismantle it. "You can ask others for help. Xiao Bei, can you teach me how you know how to look at diagrams?" Su Yilong pointed at the assembly diagram and asked. "You'll know when you see it often. The diagram you see now is very simple. You haven't seen the diagram drawn by sister. You'll feel your eyeballs hurt when you see it. To be honest, Sister Xiaozhu taught me." Speaking of helping, We have our own division of labor. I'm responsible for the transportation of troops, so I have to assemble the current troop carrier. They have their own places to be responsible for, but they still need other people's help to assemble the current vehicle. This can only mean one thing. When Xiao Bei's voice fell, she drew a finger. It was an index finger, not a middle finger. Zhang Xiaobao didn't teach his younger siblings to use body language to scold others. What's the problem? Sure enough, Su Yilong asked cooperatively. It means that my personal ability is poor. No matter how exaggerated other people's praise of teamwork is, you can't ignore the personal ability of forming a team. According to brother's words, that is, not afraid of a godlike opponent, but afraid of a pig-like teammate. Xiao Bei's two chubby little hands had already dismantled the front as he spoke, and reinstalled the extra gears just now. After waiting for a few more steps to complete, he clapped his hands and said, "Okay, only the box outside is left. I'll put the box together now." The so-called box was the outer shell, and it also needed to be put together. Su Yilong looked at it enviously. She felt that even older people would like the things in front of her, let alone children. After waiting for a while, Xiao Bei finally put the outer shell together, and covered the internal parts just now. He pushed the cart back and forth with his hands and said to Su Yilong, "Look, can we go now? Is it fun? My infantry transport vehicle is very useful. It can provide enough troops to the front, and at the same time, it can also be used as a temporary escort force." Su Yilong looked at it a few times and suddenly felt that it was very normal. It was just that there were more parts inside, but a carpenter could also make a cart that could be pushed back and forth with wood. Just as this idea arose, Xiao Bei stuffed 4 batteries into the cart, and at the same time, took out a wire and connected it to the reserved port of the cart with a copper plate with a bayonet. In his hand, there was a small box with a button. Xiao Bei sat upright and put the cart he assembled in place. He turned his head and said to Su Yilong, "Let me show you how we look like when we work together. Because they're not here, I'll say it with my mouth. You can understand it yourself, okay?" Su Yilong nodded, "Okay." He wanted to see what kind of tricks Xiao Bei could play. "Ready?" Xiao Bei shouted, and then said, 1,500 meters ahead, the enemy has formed a temporary blocking position. My Xiaoyuan battalion's advance is blocked, requesting for support. I, Xiao Bei, am an independent mobile battalion. I was ordered to go and pull Xiaoyuan battalion around the enemy's blocking position to achieve the purpose of penetrating in depth. When Xiao Bei said this, he pressed the button on the box. Su Yilong saw the cart assembled by Xiao Bei move forward by itself, and his eyes widened. Not good. There are enemy troops rushing towards my mobile battalion. My battalion drivers, pay attention to the enemy trenches in front. Set up the machine gun and sweep them all down. Beep, beep, beep. Report, my mobile battalion broke through the enemy's small blocking force and met up with Xiaoyuan. Pay attention to the enemy pursuing soldiers in front. Transport troops temporarily retreat, and find another way out. Xiao Bei released the button just now and pressed another one, and the cart began to move back. Not good. There is actually no less than a brigade behind the enemy. Calling Brother Xiaohai. Request for artillery support. 2222 high ground. 300 to 1,200 meters in front. Cover the area. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, haha, Brother Xiaohai's artillery is firing. You guys are having fun, ha 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 ha. Xiao Bei had already forgotten Su Yilong, who was beside him at this moment. He controlled the cart to move back and forth, and kept talking to himself. This was the normal behavior of most children when playing games. Generally, you would give a girl a few dolls, a set of small kitchen utensils and shovels. She would play from morning to night, and she would have a lot of fun. The dolls could also eat a lot of meals. If it was a boy, you would provide him with enough soldier models, and he would be able to fight a long and drawn-out battle. Zhang Xiaobao had done such a thing before. When he was in the orphanage, he collected a lot of poker cards that were missing one, and then divided them according to red and black. One side represented the good guys, and the other side represented the bad guys. He spread them in the yard, on the steps, in the sandpit, and everywhere were poker soldiers. When a soldier died, the poker cards would be turned over, and the final result would always be the good side winning. It seemed that the poker soldiers that represented the good guys were very strong, and there were more reinforcements than the bad guys. So now Zhang Xiaobao also provided the same game for his younger brother and sister. However, the things that represented the soldiers were no longer poker cards, but lifelike models. Each soldier was independent, and could even be loaded into a car. If Xiao Bei and the others had the time and energy, they could set up tens of thousands of models to cooperate in a grand battle. If Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan wanted to teach Xiao Bei and the others knowledge through such a game, they first had to immerse themselves in the game like Xiao Bei and the others. They definitely couldn't stand aside and watch the children play. Then, as an adult, you would laugh and let the children's attention be on you. Then, as if coaxing the children, you would say, "Are you playing this? Is it fun?" If you said that, the children would be very angry. They would think that you were mocking them for being small. The battle that they had painstakingly designed was disrupted by you, and a feeling of not being recognized would fill their hearts. There were two kinds of consequences. First, they would angrily push you away and not let you watch. Then they would turn around and readjust their mood and continue playing by themselves. Second, they would simply stop playing and not care about the battle situation that they had created. They would turn around and find a place to sulk. Every time Zhang Xiaobao, who knew this kind of child psychology, wanted to participate, he and Wang Wan would secretly observe from the side and analyze Xiao Bei and the others' deployment of the battle. Then they would go over and provide support. Usually they would be logistics and engineers. The expression on their faces had to be serious. However, there was one thing that had to be said first. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan definitely couldn't use Xiao Bei and the others' troops and tools. When they were needed to participate, they had to lead the troops themselves. This was because all the troops of the other party had already been arranged. Therefore, Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan also had a lot of toys. Usually they would put them in a big box and take them out when needed. They would cooperate with Xiao Bei and the others and play together with them. They would also tell them the knowledge that they wanted to teach Xiao Bei and the others. This was why Xiao Bei now knew so many battle terms and understood tactics. Su Yilong had already started to develop a situation where his IQ was gradually decreasing. Xiao Bei was only commanding a car, but he slowly felt the situation of the entire battlefield from Xiao Bei's words. Penetrating deep, dividing, encircling, advancing horizontally, setting up blocking positions to resist the enemy's reinforcements, and cooperating with the main force to annihilate the enemies in the encirclement. Interfering with the enemy's logistics, setting up a pocket formation, luring the enemy deep into the encirclement, attacking reinforcements, surrounding 3 and missing 1, digging tunnels, building trenches, protecting the medics, and so on. Xiao Bei controlled the car and completely immersed himself in his own fantasy. He used all the war knowledge he had learned. Su Yilong listened to Xiao Bei's muttering and didn't dare to disturb him. He had a feeling that if he was really in a troop and his opponent was Xiao Bei and the other 9 people, he would definitely be beaten silly by Xiao Bei and the others. Even if Xiao Bei and the others had never organized a real war, they were still better than him. He couldn't even analyze what Xiao Bei was muttering. Sometimes he would be very happy when he figured something out. After thinking for a while, he realized that he couldn't understand many of the methods Xiao Bei mentioned. Su Yilong gave up on continuing to follow Xiao Bei's train of thought, and turned to consider more important things. That was the car controlled by Xiao Bei. This car was equipped with a motor, an electric motor, and a battery. It could move forward and backward. According to Xiao Bei, this was called a troop carrier. It was indeed a toy and couldn't be used in a real war. If one stepped on it, it would definitely be flattened. However, this thing could be made bigger. After the parts were enlarged, wouldn't it be possible to let the soldiers go up? Moreover, Xiao Bei had just muttered that there were machine guns in the car. Once the enlarged car was sent to a real battlefield, the outside of the car would be iron, and there would be machine guns in the car. In the face of the enemies of the surrounding countries, what method would the other party use to stop this weapon that gave people a sense of power? Out of battery? Sure enough, as I said, the battery won't work after an hour. They also said that it can last for 2 hours. Liars. Well, that's it for today. I won't take the battery. I have to save it. Xiao Bei's car was difficult to move. He found that it was because the battery was out of battery. Xiao Bei put down the control box in his hand and breathed a sigh of relief. Only then did he remember that there was a person beside him. Did you see everything just now?" Xiao Bei asked embarrassedly. At this moment, he realized that what he muttered just now was just his imagination. What if others heard him and laughed at him for thinking too much? Su Yilong didn't understand the child's thoughts and nodded honestly. When Xiao Bei was even more embarrassed, she said, "I saw and heard it, but there are many things I don't understand. For example, why is there a trench in front, but Xiao Bei's tracked armor doesn't move forward? Why does he have to wait for Danan's explosive soldier to rush over first?" "Oh." Xiao Bei was relieved. He let out a long sound, smiled complacently, and explained. "Because the enemy's trench. My wheeled car will get stuck in it. The tracked armor can rush over, but what if they don't want to live anymore and tie a lot of grenades together and hold them above their heads? When the tracked car goes over and explodes, the car will be finished, and the people in the car will be shocked to death. Danan's explosive soldier will rush over under the cover of the armored car's machine gun and throw grenades into the trench. Don't you think so? A tracked armored car is very expensive, but you just said that you want to end the battle quickly. If your armored car is waiting there, you will lose your speed advantage at the same time. How will you achieve tactical deployment?" Su Yilong asked the key question. Xiao Bei was stunned. His eyes stared at a place and thought for a moment. He patted his head and nodded, admitting, "Yes, I forgot. It should be under the condition of not caring about the damage of the car, quickly rushing forward, tearing apart the enemy's line of defense, and cooperating with other troops to complete the encirclement. I didn't consider it thoroughly. You are very good. I believe that with you as my adjutant, my team will be able to reduce a lot of command mistakes during battle. I have decided now to allow you to join our army. Now that you don't have any soldiers, I will transfer some of my soldiers and let you form your own direct troops. The number may be a little small, but don't worry. When we reach Izhou, I will ask people to make more soldier models. As for you, what you need to do now is to formulate the framework of your army. When the time comes, I will complete your formation of troops. Do you have any other requests?" "Thank you, General. I don't have any other requests. Can I have a mobile army? It's just..." Su Yilong pointed at the car assembled by Xiao Bei expectantly. Although he was much older than Xiao Bei, this kind of wired remote-controlled car was also very attractive to him. If it could be changed to wireless, the whole world would probably go crazy with it. With a remote-controlled car or plane, even an old man would be immersed in playing with it. Xiao Bei said generously, "Yes. In fact, brother and sister's team has a lot of small cars. One is for us to play with, and the other is for the technical staff to constantly improve and design what should be designed so that it can be used in a real war in the future. Later, I will teach you the use of a group of small cars on the battlefield. There is a tactical name called magnetic tactics, using fast mobility to maintain a relative distance from the enemy and constantly consume the enemy's strength. However, first of all, we need to have sufficient technology, especially strong long-range firepower." Su Yilong saw that Xiao Bei was willing to support some small cars and immediately became excited. When she heard Xiao Bei mention magnetic tactics, she became even more curious and asked, "Is magnetic tactics very powerful?" "Very powerful. In a war story that sister told, magnetic tactics caused a lot of damage to the enemy. Moreover, because the enemy's technology couldn't keep up, they could only passively take a beating." Xiao Bei looked very helpless when talking about magnetic tactics. "Is it because you can't think of a way to break this tactic?" Su Yilong asked again. Xiao Bei shook his head. "No, it's because when we used magnetic tactics, we didn't get any advantage from brother and sister. Now, I can't figure out what went wrong. At that time, when we were playing games with brother and sister, we distributed the money according to the same principle. That is to say, if we have good weapons, then we have fewer soldiers. If we want more soldiers, then the weapons can't be too advanced. At that time, brother and sister wanted very ordinary weapons and then fought with us. In the end, brother and sister kept the ordinary allocated money and didn't use it. We used all kinds of tactics, whether it was partial or overall, but we didn't get any advantage. Don't you think it's uncomfortable? Before brother and sister could counterattack, we admitted defeat. Su Ilong couldn't help but laugh out loud. She reached out and touched Xiao Bei's head. You are still young. When you grow up, you will definitely be able to beat Xiao Bao and Cuckoo. Let them use weapons that are not too different from yours. You still want to win? Didn't you see the sand table sealed in Hibiscus Garden? Using indigenous cold weapons against hot weapons, how much torture did those generals in the court suffer? I know. War is fought with people. Unless the weapons are really too powerful, it depends on the commander's commanding ability. Let's not talk about it anymore. Help me take apart the small car and put it back. Xiao Bei began to dismantle the car. Su Ilong helped at the side and carefully put the parts back to their original positions. Her heart was filled with pride. She looked forward to the day when the small car in front of her became bigger, forming an absolutely superior mechanized army and rampaging in the enemy camp. What Su Ilong didn't know was that small cars like Xiao Bei's toy had already started to be manufactured in the Ministry of Works. Moreover, they weren't making toys and didn't have any remote control devices. There could be wireless telegraphy, but wireless remote control was too difficult for the people in the Ministry of Works. The car made by the Ministry of Works also had a motor, but it was twice as big as Xiao Bei's. The battery used was also different. There was no place to place a machine gun on the car, and the wheels of the car were very suitable for uneven roads. At the filming site of the Ministry of Works, Li Longji had just finished a set of scenes. When he was resting, there was such a small car under his feet. Explosives are placed on top of this car, and then it is sent forward. It can't be controlled, and can only be detonated at a certain distance. If it doesn't meet the enemy, how can it be stopped? After listening to the technician's introduction, Li Longji began to evaluate the small car. The purpose of making a small car was to place explosives on top of it. When it was close to the enemy, the people behind would use a telegraph-like device to select a frequency band and send a signal to the receiving device on the car. The signal receiving device would be connected to the battery circuit and detonator. The moment the signal was received would be the time of the explosion. The main purpose was to prevent their own people from taking the risk of rushing forward when the artillery at the back couldn't catch up. The small car could go very far, exceeding the throwing distance of a grenade. The technician said helplessly, "There's no other way. If we use a remote control device, we need a very long wire. For example, if it runs 200 meters away, we need at least 200 meters of wire. If it gets caught on something, it will be very troublesome. If we only let the small car move 50 meters, it would be better to throw a grenade. Now we are researching on the grenade launcher. The main problem is the primer for the grenade. If we can make it, we can even make artillery shells, let alone grenades. The problem is that if we add primer to the grenade, the cost of making it is too high. Xiao Bao called us last month and scolded us. He said we didn't put in enough effort to form a team during our research. He said we felt grenades are not as long as artillery shells and are not important. That's why we didn't research on adding primer to the grenade." When the technician was speaking, he felt wronged. This was because the Ministry of Works Research Institute was rarely scolded, especially by such a harsh tone. Then is what Xiao Bao scolded us? Li Longji asked. Actually, yes, we felt grenades have a shorter throwing distance. If it is a few dozen meters away, we can also use guns to shoot. Also, the weight of a grenade can be exchanged for the weight of a lot of bullets. It is not as convenient to carry as grenades. The technician wanted to explain or shirk responsibility, but he suddenly remembered Zhang Xiaobao's style of doing things and didn't dare to find excuses for himself. Li Longji pondered for a while. Do it as soon as possible, but be careful. How much is the cost of the small car under my feet? 30 strings of bursts. The entire set will cost 30 strings of bursts. Xiao Bao sent us a telegram a few days ago and asked us to make dozens of big ones. This big. The technician measured the length of the car. It was about 1.5 meters long and 70 centimeters wide. Li Longji followed and asked, Xiao Bao wants to use it to blow up the city walls? Why don't we use artillery to bombard them? It's not blowing up the city walls. It's for the little guys to sit and play with. We are currently solving the problem of the battery pack's storage capacity and the amount of electricity that can be delivered per unit of time. The technician replied. We are going to war soon, and Xiaobao still wants to make toys for Xiaobei and the others? Just do it. Who knows what they are thinking? Li Longji couldn't figure out what Zhang Xiaobao was thinking, so he wanted to stop him. However, he also considered the possibility that Zhang Xiaobao might have some ulterior motive. If he were to stop him, it would be too late. Thus he nodded. Your Majesty, we can start filming the next set of scenes. You need to change your clothes. This set of scenes will show that you support agriculture. You need to wear a bamboo hat on your head, change your clothes into rough linen, and preferably straw sandals on your feet. We have also prepared a hoe for you. Do you want to start? The director in charge of filming carefully came over and said awkwardly. Li Longji had been filming the scenes in the school next to the research institute. He personally held a book and taught others as if he really knew. Now he needed to change it to the agricultural aspect. The makeup artist was in place and had to make him look like a farmer who was hoeing crops in the afternoon. The only thing was that the color of his skin was slightly darker, there had to be sweat on his head, his sleeves were rolled up, and there had to be some mud on his arms. Actually, when people were farming, the men were usually shirtless to prevent their clothes from being worn out. However, the emperor couldn't be shirtless, or else the people from the Ministry of Rights and the censorate would be excited. After Li Longji changed his clothes and had the makeup done, he looked at the hoe and ordered, "Change it. It's obvious that this is a new hoe. Change it to an old one." When filming a movie, even if you are lying, you have to be more professional. It won't do if you don't have the basic qualities. Yes, we didn't consider it thoroughly. Your Majesty, come with us. The people from the Research Institute have opened up some vegetable fields on the left. It just so happens that they didn't have time to clean up the weeds there. You can go and hoe it. The director was very good at choosing the location. Gao Lisher didn't go to the construction site in the palace today. Instead, he came along to watch. He still had a few scenes and added 2 lines. One line was, Your Majesty, you personally teach, you will inspire the students of the Ministry of Works. The other line was, Your Majesty, you personally farm, you will inspire the people. In the end, Li Longji changed it. Otherwise, it would seem too fake. He changed it to, Your Majesty, the students of the Ministry of Works have already seen what you said last time. Why don't you talk more about it later? Your Majesty, there is a place in front that you didn't hoe. There are still edible wild vegetables. I will collect them for you and make your favorite wild vegetable soup. This was much better than the previous one. It felt more natural, and showed that the emperor wasn't that amazing. There were also places that the hoe couldn't hoe. At the same time, it also showed that the emperor didn't necessarily eat delicacies. There was still wild vegetable soup. That was the way things were. It was a movie, so of course it was a lie. If it was real, it would be called a documentary. Li Longji came to the uncleaned field with the hoe in his hand. He pondered for a moment and said, Find me 2 more children. Your Majesty, why are you looking for children? The director was also a rookie. To be honest, Zhang Xiaobao was much better than him as a director. Moreover, he could write his own script, act as an actor, and win all kinds of awards for the male lead. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to fool people. Li Longji slammed the hoe into the ground and said in a deep voice, I don't intend to give the commoners the idea that I am doing farm work every day. Find 2 children and a group of commoners. Or you can act as commoners yourselves. After that, you can stand by the side of the field and watch me. When I am weeding, don't move. Just watch. When the 2 children come over, one of them curiously asks, I heard that you are the emperor. Why did you suddenly think of weeding today? The other child keeps nodding his head with a curious expression. At that time, I will stop and use one hand to massage my waist. I will say to the 2 children, Yes, I am the emperor. Today, I am working in the field to tell the commoners of Great Tang that I, the emperor, value you very much. Although I am not good at this kind of work and my waist hurts, I believe that you will do a good job. You will be 100 times better than me. It is because of you that I can eat my fill. Then, I will look at the commoners and say to them, Don't always look at me as a joke. Come down and help me hoe this field. At the same time, I will also give you a scene. After you are done with your work, go back and do other things. This is what I plan to do. Listen to me and get down to the field to help me hoe the weeds. You will do it skillfully. If you don't know how to do it, don't give me a scene. What do you think? Everyone who heard Li Longji's words widened their eyes. Gao Lishur cooperated and shouted, "Talent! Your Majesty! This subject never thought that Your Majesty would have such talent. This subject agrees. We will do as Your Majesty says." The flattering voices of the others also sounded in Li Longji's ears. Li Longji narrowed his eyes in enjoyment. Suddenly, an idea popped up in his mind. He asked the people around him, "Say, if we find someone to play the role of Xiaobao and pretend to be a fool and follow me around, I can teach him from time to time. Would the effect be better?" The people who heard Li Longji's words not only widened their eyes, but their mouths were also wide open. They looked as if they were frozen in a photograph. After a while, Gao Lishur softly persuaded, "Your Majesty, why don't you get someone to act as Xiaobao? If you get someone to act like Xiaobao, even if he doesn't go crazy, the commoners will go crazy. The merchants of Great Tang will all commit suicide by banging their heads against the wall. That is too fake. No one will believe that Xiaobao is that foolish." Is that so? Li Longji was clearly depressed. I can't even take advantage of this. Since Xiaobao can't act like a fool, who can? As Li Longji spoke, his eyes began to look around, and the people around him lowered their heads. At dusk the next day, the red clouds were reflected in the sky. In the distant mountains, a few flocks of birds in the forest were frightened by Shui Yun's family, and they flew in all directions, drawing vivid lines under the sunset. Xiaobei hugged his brother and said that he wanted to eat something good. He kept talking about the hardships of the past few days. The other 8 children surrounded him and added a few words from time to time. Su Yilong had a reserved expression and stood beside Su Jian. She was telling her grandfather that she had been too conceited in the past, and that she had finally seen the power of Xiaobei and the other 9. "Go take a bath first, change your clothes, and then eat," Zhang Xiaobao said to Xiaobei. "I'm done bathing and changing. Brother, I'm exhausted from the past few days. I need a lot of nourishment," Xiaobei shouted. "Okay, I'll make you a fat pork shoulder." Zhang Xiaobao agreed. Let's make some vitamins. Make some braised potatoes." Xiaobei immediately changed his mind. Thus, Zhang Xiaobao took away the braised potatoes and steak that night. Together with Wang Wan, he held a knife and fork to accompany his younger siblings for dinner. There were many candles on the table. The maidservants and odd job workers who followed Xiaobei's 9 bodyguards handed over all their work for the time being, and enjoyed a good dinner. Buckets of water were drawn from the nearby river and heated up. After taking a nice bath, they each went to sleep and didn't care about anything else. During this period of time, they were the most tired and needed to relax and rest. After Xiaobei and the others had eaten their fill, they went to bed early. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan asked people to bring over the Chen family from Tunghua County, who hadn't eaten for the entire day. The oldest man in the Chen family, Chen Mutong, looked even older at this moment. There wasn't the slightest bit of redness on his face. He looked like a lamp that had run out of oil and could die at any time. The skin on Chen Guangho, Chen Guangliang, and Chen Guangchuan's faces were also sagging and drooping. Their eyes were sunken. The children in their family no longer had arrogant expressions. Each and every one of their eyes was filled with fear. Zhang Xiaobao looked at them without the slightest bit of sympathy in his heart. Colluding with the enemy with selfish motives would inevitably cost the lives of the Tang people. What they exchanged for was not cattle and sheep, but the flesh and blood of their own soldiers. After sizing up the Chen family for a while, Zhang Xiaobao slowly opened his mouth. "I don't need to say more about what you did. Even if you turn yourselves in, the reduced punishment won't let you live. However, I'm a kind person and don't want to kill you, so I need you to do something first." Do it. We'll do anything to leave the Chen family a line of descendants," Chen Mutong said in a hoarse voice. When he raised his head to look at Zhang Xiaobao, his eyes were full of pleading. You'll personally come forward and transfer the transaction with Duosher to my people. I'll directly send people to seize it for fear that Duosher's people will be suspicious. After this is done, you won't be killed. I'll find a place for you to go mining. The women in your family will be responsible for cooking in the mining area. After 30 years, I'll release the 3 youngest children in your family. They'll be in their 30s by then, and it won't be too late to find a wife to continue the Chen family's line of descendants. As for the others, they'll die in the mines. They can die of exhaustion, old age, or sickness. When I announce to the outside world, I'll say that I killed you. Do you have any objections? Zhang Xiaobao left them a way out. Instead of killing them directly, it was better to create some social value. I don't agree. Chen Yaozu shouted because he wasn't the youngest child. His father suddenly covered his mouth and said to Zhang Xiaobao, "Don't worry about him. He'll go straight in and work. He wasn't involved in the transaction with Duosher at all, so it won't affect our transfer. I'll be in charge of this matter, and I'll make Duosher trust the person who takes over later." Zhang Xiaobao nodded and waved his hand again. Someone from the side came over to take the Chen family people away. After waiting for the others to leave, Zhang Xiaobao took out a map and spread it out. He called out to Wang Wan, "Help me give some advice on what kind of resources to trade for Duosher's things." Wang Wan came over. "If you ask me, we'll trade for livestock. If we can trade for food, that's fine too. I don't think they'll give us any information. At the same time, it'll easily arouse suspicion. Then let's send them more medicine to treat their illness." Zhang Xiaobao followed. Chapter 12:15. The timing of the team's departure was very accurate. They said that they would arrive in Izhou on the 2nd day after the rendezvous. When Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's team arrived at the city gate of Izhou, the Chens had already met up with Duosher's spies who were hiding in the city. They introduced the new contact to them, and at the same time indicated that they might not be able to trade with the other party in person in the future. This was because Xiaobei and the others now had a lot of evidence and could discover the problem with their family at any time. At that time, they might reveal the secret, so they asked the other party to leave immediately. They also had to secretly communicate with the new contact to confirm the contact method in the future. Sure enough, not long after Chen Guangho left, the Chen's portraits were posted in all the public places in Izhou, saying that they were guilty of colluding with the enemy. It was no longer a financial problem as previously suspected. What followed was a citywide search to find the contact between Duosher and the Chens. The people in Tunghua County's Yamen had been replaced, and the original ones were nowhere to be found. Some said that they were sent to work, and some said that they were directly shot. While the search was going on in Izhou, the local Yamen did not move. They were all brought by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. This made the spies sent to Izhou by various countries sigh in relief. It was not that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were not capable, but according to common sense, the local people were more familiar with the local situation. Since the local forces were not mobilized, in the end, they only found a dozen local gangsters who wanted to become gangsters. All of them were arrested and sent to repair the road. The local people found that the place where they usually lived was peaceful. The meat sellers no longer encountered situations where they only received 3 or 4 copper coins for a piece of meat that was supposed to be 5 copper coins. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan's team camped in the field of the local garrison outside the city, and they themselves led a small group of people into the city. The restaurant in the city had been emptied a few days ago. They no longer received any foreign guests, and only waited for the arrival of the main family. It's time for a battle of wits. To be honest, I'm very angry now. Zhang Xiaobao sent someone to inform the local forces that they were not allowed to visit him now. He sat at the top of the Blue Sea Silver Sand restaurant, and looked down through the window as he spoke to Wang Wan, who was grinding coffee. Wang Wan unhurriedly shook the coffee grinding machine. When she heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, she asked, "What's wrong? You haven't come up with a good idea yet?" "No, I really hate them. Of all the times to cause trouble, why did they have to wait until we were about to take action? I hope that the Meteor Battle Squad's speed can be a little faster. After the results are out, maybe I can have a flash of inspiration and figure out a way to harm others to benefit myself. As Zhang Xiaobao spoke, he got up to get snacks, sugar, and salt. He was going to have a cup of coffee with Wang Wan later. Now there were a lot of coffee beans stored at home, but he had never taken them out to sell. He didn't even send them to Gao Lisher. He wanted to wait for more coffee to be planted in Hainan before taking them out to form a new employment industry for Tang Dynasty. Just like now, they were looking for unsuitable places to plant tea trees. They were using various methods to make tea leaves and piling them up in the warehouse. Then when the fleet was free, they would ship them to farther places and conduct a fair trade with the locals. Xiaobao, I remember that you don't like to drink coffee. When Wang Wan saw Zhang Xiaobao busying himself there, she didn't think that he was specially serving her. I suddenly thought of selling tea. The locals might not like to drink tea. If we sell it boat by boat, the price of the tea will definitely not go up. Things are expensive when they are rare, so we have to sell them as luxury goods, especially good tea. The current coffee is expensive because it's rare. If we don't want it to be rare, we have to add some vegetable fat into it. What Zhang Xiaobao meant was that the coffee in front of him was expensive, so he could drink it. Wang Wan was amused by Zhang Xiaobao's words. Things are expensive when they are rare. Can rare and thick be the same? In the past, I never put anything else in my coffee. Coffee with seasonings is the same as tea with salt and ginger. The taste looks like a lot, but it loses the most primitive thing. A simple coffee doesn't mean that it's boring. Simple coffee can also be long-lasting. Coffee without adding anything doesn't mean that it's bitter, but that it's simple and pure. In fact, many things are the same. If you think too much, you will be blinded by prosperity in the end. While talking, Wang Wan's coffee was ready. She poured a cup for herself and another cup for Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao looked down and blew into the cup, using his face to test the temperature. He found that it was too hot to drink, so he said, "Your coffee is too simple. There are still dregs in it." If there is, then there is. When coffee was first drunk, there weren't so many processing equipment. Just like the novel Journey to the West said, the world is not complete, so why make everything perfect? Art has always represented flaws. Perfect things are not called art, but end. Wang Wan had reached the realm of selflessness at this moment, swimming in the sea of philosophy, so she casually took a pair of chopsticks and stirred the cup just to cool it down. Zhang Xiaobao suddenly stood up, walked over to open the door, and said to the two people standing at the door, "Go and call the people from the action team." After a while, 10 people came in one after another, each with a writing pad under their arm. "Sit." Zhang Xiaobao motioned, but didn't invite them to drink coffee together, because they had to start recording immediately. "This is my order." As soon as Zhang Xiaobao said these 3 words, the 10 people picked up their pens in unison. Jiangyin Reserve Bureau. Open the dry seafood warehouse and use automatic cargo ships to transport the seafood here at the fastest speed. A large amount of dehydrated vegetables in Jiang Province, and the black gunpowder stored in Beiling, are to be transported to Yi Province immediately. Luzhou, send a small fishing patrol team to arrest the fishermen of Jinla Dynasty on the grounds that they are stealing Tang's fish. Also, ask the Jinla Dynasty to give us a satisfactory explanation. Huainan and Henan Province's grain is to be transferred to Shannon East Province. Shannon East Province's grain is to be transferred to Shannon West Province, and Shannon West Province's grain is to be transferred to Jiannan Province. Those who stay in the capital are to send the plan to His Majesty. Everything will start in 3 days. After giving the order, Zhang Xiaobao picked up the cup of coffee that had cooled down a little and looked at Wang Wan. At this moment, Wang Wan was drinking coffee. Her coffee was pure, but she was eating salty French fries. When she heard Zhang Xiaobao's words, Wei Wei was stunned. When she saw the look Zhang Xiaobao gave her, she nodded and said, "Have you made up your mind?" "Yes, from now on I won't pursue perfection. I'll pursue art. No one can control the process of war. It's like a one-wheeled bicycle that needs to find balance in motion. Since we are facing the unknown, let's take action first, muddy the water, and find what we know from it." Zhang Xiaobao made this decision after hearing Wang Wan mention coffee. Wang Wan took a deep breath, put down the cup of coffee, and said to the people of the action group, "Send a report to the troops stationed at Xindu River." 3 days later at noon, They will launch an attack on the garrison of Duosher Wuchang. Order the troops stationed in Tibet's Great Balu to cross the mountains at the border and attack the troops of Duosher Army in Minnesota. Order the Nepal commandos to advance toward Gwangyang City and destroy any enemy lives along the way. Order the artillery directly under Lhasa City to arrive near the river that runs from east to west, and be prepared to attack the enemy's troops at any time. Order the Annam Protectorate to take out 80% of its troops and block the border with Jinla. A pile of military orders came out of Wang Wan's mouth. The time of the attack was set to be 3 days later. In the morning, the new administrative orders would be published in the capital in the form of newspapers. At noon, the battle would begin. Zhang Xiaobao needed these two actions to support the implementation of the new plan. As for whether Jinla would start a war, there was no need to consider. Originally, they treated Jinla as a frontline war. Now they combined it with the war against Duosher. If it didn't attack, they would let the navy go around it. If it attacked, they would treat it as Duosher and extend the front line. In any case, the front lines from east to west and north to north were long enough. This was because Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan not only wanted to attack Iran and Pakistan, but also a large part of India. Otherwise, it would be difficult to rule. With the Himalayas in the way, they might as well take this opportunity to firmly occupy the other side of the mountain. If they didn't attack now, they would have to readjust the domestic situation when they invaded India after the war with Duosher. At the same time, it was not beneficial for Zhang Xiaobao to make plans outside of the war. They had to give Zhang Xiaobao a strategic territory where he could attack and retreat, and an environment where there was absolute military power to suppress him. Only then could he display his abilities. It was said that economic aggression was powerful, but the prerequisite was that there was military power to protect it. Otherwise, Zhang Xiaobao couldn't do anything. Even if he played tricks with economic means, when the time came and people said that they would directly confiscate his things, he could only hold on. If Wang Wan fought well, Zhang Xiaobao wouldn't have to worry about someone finding a groundless excuse to confiscate his operating capital. Similarly, Wang Wan also didn't have to worry. She only had to ensure that her military strength was enough to deter the enemy, or that she would constantly win in small skirmishes. That way, the soldiers wouldn't have to risk their lives. It was very simple to say. It was just the theory of yin and yang, a rule that nothing in the world could escape. In fact, the ancestors had spent a lot of effort to study it, but the descendants didn't inherit and develop it well for various reasons. For example, when the sky thundered and it rained, the ancestors explained that yin and yang combined to form rain, and at the same time, yin was born from yang, and yin was born from yang. The supplement to yin and yang was the 3 forces and 5 elements of heaven, earth, and man. Wisdom could be said to be soaked in thousands of things, but there were always problems in turning the theory into practical people and the promotion of the era. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan were in such a situation. One yin and one yang had to cooperate well before they could transform into other aspects. The thing that the two of them didn't want to happen the most was barbarians using simple means to destroy the normal development of Chinese civilization. In history, it seemed that at every critical moment, they would be dealt with by others, and they felt helpless and distressed. Thus, when the two of them had just developed an industrial system, they first let their own countries collide economically and ideologically, and then made the great leap forward, and then resolved it through war. This way, not only would the neighboring countries always be under the shadow of war, but it would also be convenient for them to plunder resources, then come back to research technology, promote weapons, and continue to expand. The two of them were riding the development of the Great Tang like a bicycle, not fixed to the left or the right, but always wandering between the two. As I was writing, I realized that it was already past 24 o'clock. Alright, for the full attendance of 500 Dayuan this month, I'll update 15,000 Dayuan today. When I'm done, please count your votes and encourage me. Chapter 12:16. The dark clouds of war were gathering, and even the people of the Tang Empire could feel this oppressive atmosphere. From time to time, groups of soldiers would come to the docks, escorting packages marked with military insignia to the ships docked there. On the official roads of various places, groups of transport teams escorted by soldiers were also advancing. The local army, which the people rarely saw before, had now opened up their camps. Occasionally, a group of cavalrymen would patrol along the roads. The bailiffs of the local government offices began to take up their duties on time with water and fire sticks in their hands. They also took the initiative to come to the various markets to help maintain order. They even personally set up shelves for the sellers and asked the elderly if there was anything they wanted them to do. The local government put up notices one after another, requesting that local law and order be strictly enforced in the near future. They did not allow hooligans who had nothing to do to continue to wander around the streets in groups. If they caused trouble, they would be severely punished. Darling Candy House had a new program, the Good Baby Award. As long as the children who went to school did not run around after school and returned home to study peacefully, or came to Darling Candy House to study with other children in the open room of Darling Candy House, they would receive a reward. It could be a delicious cake, or a few beautiful candies. If her performance was good enough, she might even get a beautiful dress. In just half a day, the people of the Tang Empire knew that there was going to be a war. And it was a war personally commanded by the war god in their hearts, Cuckoo. There had been wars in the past, but there had never been a time like this. In the past, every war had a common feature, and that was when the horn of war sounded, domestic goods would rise in price. If the war was difficult, there would even be a temporary increase in rent. In fact, the people of various places were already prepared for this. They only hoped that after the war, the price of goods would fall again. The merchants also began to get restless. One by one, they contacted their peers and asked if they should take advantage of this opportunity to stock up on goods. When the time came, they would raise the price and earn more from the difference. The small merchants gathered together to discuss. They felt that they should follow the previous rules, but they were not assured. They decided to find the bigger merchants, especially those on the top list of billionaires, to ask about the situation. Everyone could earn money together. In the city of Suzhou, on the eastern road of Jiangnan, in the Gu family's mansion, it was already late at night. The house was brightly lit. Electric lights hung high in the sky above each courtyard. The sound of the diesel generator roared endlessly as the servants in the house shuttled back and forth. The owner of the splendid general trading company, Gu Yunfei, was sitting in the middle of the hall. Orders to distribute goods came out of her mouth, and the sound of telegrams from the local telegraph office kept ringing. Pay attention to the prices of goods everywhere. If there are any fluctuations, order them to report it immediately. Don't allow the managers of the branches to change the prices of the goods sold in the branches at will. Set up our telegraph machine, and be ready to receive news from the Monopoly Alliance at any time. After Gu Yunfei passed down a bunch of orders, she closed her eyes and thought for a while, then passed down a new order. She then picked up a bowl of soup on the table beside her, drank 2 mouthfuls, and let out a long breath. Starting at noon today, after the Jiangyin Reserve had taken action, she had not had time to rest. She was very clear on what the large cluster of warehouses in Jiangyin was used for. As long as there was a change there, it was definitely Zhang Xiaobao giving the order, and the war would inevitably begin. Thus, she did not have time to eat. She found the person in charge of the business in the house. After a discussion, they began to arrange the various matters of the splendid general trading company. Now they had finally arranged everything that needed to be arranged. All that was left was to wait. Let's see what the Monopoly Alliance has to say. The Monopoly Alliance sounded like a purely commercial organization, and only merchants who entered the top ranking of billionaires had the right to join. But once one joined, one would discover that this alliance was not purely a commercial alliance. There were also members of the imperial court hiding behind the scenes. For example, the simplest method was to transport goods to places outside the Great Tang, and exchange them with the local natives. If it was someone who had not joined the alliance, they would only know to gather the goods and do as they were told. But the information the merchants in the alliance would receive was the general climate of each place, the reefs in the sea along the way, and the regions where there might be storms. At the same time, they would also receive the sailing route of the Great Tang's patrol fleet, a special telegraph machine, and the corresponding password to contact the fleet. Who would believe that there was no imperial court behind the alliance? Let alone the password, even the telegraph machine would not be given to you to use. Most importantly, the chief stewards sent out by the alliance would be given a pistol with 16 bullets and 2 magazines for them to carry on their bodies to protect themselves. At the same time, the stewards would be required to gather as much local intelligence as possible. This included what kind of animals and plants there were, what the structure of the local tribes were, and the doctors following the teams would report on the actual physical conditions of the members. Gu Yunfei knew from this that this was an imperial court operation under the guise of merchants. The purpose was to control all the influential merchants in the country. Moreover, she knew that ever since the Monopoly Alliance had been established, none of the merchants had ever been kicked out, even if they had made less money recently, or if they had done something wrong and lost money. Based on their wealth and status, they should have been kicked out of the alliance and replaced with someone better. But in reality, they had not been kicked out. On the contrary, they had received the support of the Great Tang Bank, and they had even been given interest-free loans. This meant that the imperial court did not wish for the merchants of the Monopoly Alliance to leave the alliance and tell others about the rules, so they could only help them when they made mistakes in their capital operations. And the merchants who entered the alliance would not suffer continuous losses. As long as they were given a little help, they would immediately be able to get back on their feet. Otherwise, they would not have been able to get on the list at the beginning. But other people could also enter, such as those rising stars. As long as their seniors were not kicked out, as long as their assets reached a certain level, they could enter the alliance, and their position on the list would change according to their assets. The only difference was that the list had only 100 people in the past, but now it had been expanded to 500. In theory, the top 200 had the qualifications to enter the alliance, but in reality, there were more than 300 people in the alliance. This meant that there were merchants whose positions on the list had changed, but they had not left the alliance. Gu Yunfei was patiently waiting for the imperial court to give the alliance an order. Then, she did not need to consider any other problems. Whatever the imperial court arranged, she and the others would follow. Even if the imperial court wanted the people of the alliance to donate all their assets, she could not object or even hesitate. Reporting, there are guests outside the residence. They say they are coming to Thunderbolt Logistics. This is a name card. While Gu Yunfei was thinking about the alliance, a coachman ran in from outside the hall, speaking as he handed over a name card. Gu Yunfei nodded and very casually took the name card. After opening it and glancing at it, she immediately stood up from her chair and ordered, "Come, open the main door and follow me to welcome them." "Fair, who is it?" An old man's voice came from the side hall. "Father, you stay here. Your daughter will personally go over. It is the owner of Thunderbolt Logistics, Li Chengfang." "The time is not right. He should be overseeing Woyang. When did he come to our Suzhou?" Gu Yunfei said to her father and shook her head. She walked out with confusion in her heart. She was truly confused. Looking at the time, if Li Chengfang had just received the news, or had received the news at noon, he should not have arrived in Suzhou in the blink of an eye. Luoyang was quite a distance from Suzhou. Even the train could not reach this speed. Unfortunately, the train tracks were only built from the south to the capital. There were very few other places that were built horizontally. If only it was built directly to Jiannan Road. However, it was clearly not possible now. It was said that no less than 300,000 people had died building this railway. It was truly an inch of blood for every inch of track. Fortunately, the people who had died were all people from outside. The Tang people were also a bit like this, but that was accidental. It was just like how one could fall to death while walking. Very quickly, the main door of the Gu Manor was pushed open with creaking sounds. Li Chengfang, who was waiting outside with a few people, revealed a smile. He was truly afraid that this strong woman would only open the side door. What should he do then? No wonder this little girl felt that the sky of the Tang Empire was shrouded in a tense atmosphere since noon. So it was Boss Li who came at night. "Welcome, welcome. Please come in." Gu Yunfei smiled when she saw Li Chengfang. She clasped her hands together and imitated the way a man greeted. Li Chengfang also smiled and returned the greeting. Is Boss Gus saying that I brought war? Thunderbolt Logistics and your splendid sundry goods are partners. I only bring peace and money, not war. Please. The two of them greeted each other and entered the Gu manor. Naturally, there were people in charge of the arrangements for the people Li Chengfang had brought. Returning to the hall, Li Chengfang looked around and asked, I wonder if Uncle is here? I would like to pay my respects. You didn't even bring a gift. Just pay your respects like this. My father is resting in the side hall. Let's talk business first. After we are done, I will wait for you to bring a gift and see my father. Gu Yunfei didn't want others to disturb her father. Her father's health wasn't good, especially at the beginning of spring this year. He fell ill and almost didn't make it. First, he had people use ginseng to keep him alive. Then, a telegram was sent out, and the Virtuous Medical College sent a team of experts. Only then was his life saved. Now he was continuing to recuperate. This was one of the benefits of joining the alliance. Otherwise, they definitely wouldn't be able to invite a team of experts. Li Chengfang revealed a regretful expression. He also heard that Gu Yunfei's father was sick, so he wanted to see the situation. He helplessly nodded and said, Actually, I did bring a gift. It's just that it wasn't convenient to send it over today. I brought 10 tons of hot spring water from Huayuan County. Tomorrow morning, I will have someone send it over. You can heat it up yourself and let Uncle soak in it. Really? Thank you. Now let's talk business. Gu Yunfei said. Wei Wei was stunned. Chapter 12-17. Gu Yunfei was really surprised. She knew that her family was not short of things, but she would never have guessed that Li Chengfang would send 10 tons of hot spring water. As expected of Thunder Logistics, they dared to transport anything. She appreciated his kindness. Li Chengfang knew that Gu Yunfei would be very happy. His gift was not only thoughtful, but also powerful. He picked up the tea and held it in his hand. He said, I came here this time at the request of Xiaobei and the others. I left 2 days in advance. If it weren't for the train, I would have fallen apart if I rode a horse or sat in a carriage. Xiaobei, they told you the news in advance? Would Zhang Xiaobao tell them about the war? Gu Yunfei didn't believe it. Then I don't know. Anyway, Xiaobei and the others sent a telegram 2 days ago, saying that they would meet with brother and sister, and then hand over all their guards for brother and sister to use. They guessed that when the number of guards was enough, brother and sister would start the war, so they asked me to come to the seaside in advance. Since you are here, I came to take a look. At the same time, there is something I need Jinxiu General to cooperate with. Xiaobei and the others asked us, who cooperate with Darling Candy House, to follow suit. Li Chengfang said the contents of the telegram. Gu Yunfei rolled her eyes and thought for a while, guessing the truth of the matter. It was reasonable to say that when Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan decided to start the war, it was impossible for them to tell their younger siblings. Even the palace might not know. Otherwise, it would be easy to leak the news. So Xiaobei and the others were right? Did they think that if they handed over the guards, they would definitely use them for the war? She couldn't figure out what was going on, so Gu Yunfei didn't think about it anymore. She said with a smile, Xiaobei and the others handed over the guards to Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Does that mean that they can't go out to play during this time? Only Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan can equip Xiaobei and the others with such a strong team. Businessmen like us don't even dare to think about it. Gu Yunfei felt that Xiaobei and the rest of the children would be very pitiful for a period of time. Without their guards, they naturally couldn't run around. At the same time, she sighed at the wealth of the Zhang family and the Wang family. Li Chengfang nodded and said, If I were in that position, I would also equip my family with a strong enough team. I would never give the enemy any chance. If he didn't protect his family when he knew how important he was, he would be a fool if he regretted it when something happened. This could only be seen in the stories written in the newspapers every day. The main character was doing something outside and knew that he would be attacked by others. Then he did not care about his family. In the end, one family member would be in trouble today, and another family member would be beaten up tomorrow. Then he would be busy going back and forth. Today he would be anxious and tomorrow he would regret. If Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan don't give Xiaobei and the others a powerful team, I reckon that the people of the Great Tang won't be able to rest easy. How can we count on these people to build the Great Tang well? Alright. Let's not talk about their team of guards. In any case, we can't afford to spend so much money. Also, we know very well that the current team of guards is just a transition. When the batch of children in their family grow up in 2 years, they will be more powerful than the current guards. When that time comes, Xiaobei and the others will be running around the world. Did you take the train here? Do you feel that there are more people taking the train? Also, how many more carriages have there been? Estimate it so that we can make arrangements. Gu Yunfei asked about the operation of the train. Although there weren't trains everywhere, they could still obtain useful information. Li Chengfang nodded and then shook his head. There are many train carriages now, but most of them are controlled by others. When I use Thunderbolt Logistics, I need to pay an extra sum of money. This makes me both love and hate it. I don't want to pay and use other methods of transportation, but I find that it costs more. However, I feel uncomfortable handing over the money. If Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan don't go to war this year, and wait for 2 years to fight again and spend all their energy and money on building the railway, 2 years later, the number of carriages will increase, and my choices will also increase. I reckon that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan have no choice but to fight. I keep feeling that they are in a hurry. I don't know what is making them so anxious. They usually give people the impression that they are leisurely, but we can analyze from Xiaobei and the others' movements that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan are urging the progress of various things in Tang, even at the expense of many people's lives. Gu Yunfei was different from ordinary people. She needed to grasp the general situation of the country's development, and then obtain her own benefits. Ordinary people only considered their own living situation. Who in their neighborhood made more money, whose family gave a generous betrothal gift at their wedding, whose family's children advanced a few ranks in the school examination, whose meat today was 1 copper coin cheaper, should they buy 2 caddies of stuffing or stir-fried vegetables, and give the head of the household half a caddy of wine. Gu Yunfei didn't need to consider these small matters. What she needed to consider was that when a batch of goods came in, and this batch of goods wasn't the type that would be quickly consumed and needed to be stored, then what was the profit margin between the purchase price and the custom-made price when the goods were stored? Under the situation that the fixed price didn't change, what was the depreciation rate of the Tang currency over a period of time? Was there a new production technology for this type of goods that had already been purchased and stored? If there was a new production technology, then it meant that the production cost of this type of goods had decreased, and the price she bought would be more expensive. Faced with such a situation, should she sell the goods at a low price and clear the warehouse to stop losses? Or should she continue to buy such goods at a low price to balance out the previous purchase cost? Or should she look for a deep processing technology for this type of goods, and set up a company to process the goods before selling them? These were all problems, and the decisions of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan had always affected the economic and administrative operations of the entire Tang dynasty. It was impossible for her not to pay more attention to it. Even if there was a slight fluctuation in profits, it would affect the profit and loss of tens of thousands of strings of coins. Li Chengfang had the same concerns. The transportation costs and unexpected losses in the transportation process determined the profits of his trading company. Hearing Gu Yunfei's words, he analyzed. My guess is that Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan want to use faster technology to ignite the conflict in the country in a short period of time. Then they will use other means to resolve the conflict and at the same time, obtain more benefits. As for the purpose, I suspect that they are fighting for time with the other countries. They intend to ensure that the country has an absolute advantage in the industrial system and suppress the other countries, not giving them a chance to develop. Therefore, they are using human lives to build the railway. Now that they have stopped, I think that one reason is that there are not enough people to build the railway, and the other reason is that the smelting of steel can't keep up. They need to plunder to get slaves for dangerous jobs and obtain more resources. The more he thought about it, the more confused Li Chengfang became. He put himself in the position of Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan and found that there was only darkness in front of him. He couldn't see a bright future at all. Don't think about it. Gu Yunfei seemed to know what Li Chengfang was thinking and advised, "If you can think clearly, you will be another Zhang Xiaobao. Do you think that the existence outside the top list of billionaires is just something that we merchants casually promote? If that's the case, the merchants of the Great Tang won't be afraid of Zhang Xiaobao. They can adjust the price of goods however they want. During the holidays, even if the price of goods is 10 times higher, even if the imperial court gives the order, the merchants still dare to do it secretly. They still have many ways to deal with the imperial court. But the current situation is that the imperial court is not saying anything. Facing us merchants, the imperial court means that you can raise the price if you want, as long as you are prepared to face Zhang Xiaobao's wrath. Do you dare?" "No." Li Chengfang shook his head vigorously. "I'm afraid that Zhang Xiaobao isn't human at all. I think that in a few years, Xiaobei and the others will start to scheme. Why did Xiaobei ask you to come?" Gu Yunfei suddenly remembered the matter of Xiaobei and the others' resources and couldn't help but smile. At that time, Xiaobei and the others had brought their own plans to discuss cooperation. Each and every one of them said that they didn't rely on their families and relied on their own abilities. When the merchants saw the plan, they all agreed. To be honest, the plan was not bad. But if it was only because of Xiaobei and the others, the merchants couldn't be at ease cooperating with them. They didn't have the qualifications. With a plan, why should they give the benefits to Xiaobei and the others? Wouldn't it be the same if the merchants worked together? The main problem was that they didn't have a leader. Once they worked together, no one would submit to the others. That was why they agreed to let Xiaobei and the others be the leaders. Behind them were Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Li Chengfang also had memories. He smiled and said, "Xiaobei called and said that after the war, the logistics will definitely be affected. Whether we are willing or not, we have to serve the interests of the Tang Empire, even if it's free of charge. Next, the price of food will fluctuate, and basically, it will increase. Xiaobei and the others hope that they can help solve a part of the problem. Under the situation that the price of food is on the rise, Baby Candy House will stop selling. In other words, Baby Candy House will no longer sell cakes and candy made of starch. The 4,000 Baby Candy House chain stores in the Tang Empire will be ready at any time to see if any merchant dares to raise the price privately. At that time, we will first suppress them, and then gather information so that we can prepare to implement the revenge punishment plan." When Li Chengfang said these words, his eyes were full of praise. He knew that this was definitely not requested by Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Gu Yunfei and Wei Wei paused and then said, "It finally shows the difference in education. When Xiaobei and the others think about problems, they are different from ordinary children. Then why did they ask you to come to Suzhou?" "They said that since Baby Candy House can't sell cakes, they need to use other things for the children to eat. They once cheated from Japan. Oh, they exchanged a lot of seafood, including abalones, sea cucumbers, and other things like fish slices. They put all of them in Haiyan County and asked me to transport them to various places. The big abalones are left for them, and the small ones can be distributed. They will improve the technology of deep processing seafood and make it into snacks suitable for children. Not only am I here, but Yang Yang of the Dongting Fishery Group is also here. He wants to go out from the estuary of the Yangtze River and then catch big squid according to the advanced technology provided by Xiaobei and the others. He will come back to process them." Li Chengfang said the purpose of his visit, and then looked at Gu Yunfei. Gu Yunfei revealed a shocked expression. Chapter 12:18. Looking at Gu Yunfei's surprised look, Li Chengfang feels much better. He was also shocked when he first got the order. A group of little guys can silently cooperate with the actions of their brother and sister at this moment. How can other people's children be so good? Do you feel incredible? The legendary industry transformation happened to them. Due to the demand of the domestic situation, the Candy House Alliance changed from making and selling pastries and candies to selling seafood. They used all means to assist Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan. Now you know why I am here, right? Li Chengfang asks Gu Yunfei with a smile. Gu Yunfei takes a deep breath and nods. I know. Even if the alliance doesn't send the order, Jinxiu Grocery will follow their footsteps. Otherwise, before Zhang Xiaobao gets angry, they will start to revenge first. A group of children will not follow any rules when they take revenge, right? I think so. Who can guarantee that they won't use their identity as inspectors to ask the local government to cooperate when they find that they have no better way? At that time, even if you take the case to the emperor, the result will not change. According to His Majesty's previous words, when investigating the officials, they will say, "Why didn't they arrest other officials but you?" When facing businessmen, they will probably say, "Why didn't they bully other businessmen but you?" When Li Chengfang says it, he feels very interesting. A group of lawless children like Xiaobei care about the Tang Empire very much, while those honest people may think about something else. Seeing that Thunder Logistics and Dongting Aquatic Products are involved, Gu Yunfei asks, "Can my business help?" "Maybe we don't need your business this time," Li Chengfang says uncertainly. Just as he finishes his words, a servant of the Gu family walks in quickly from outside the hall with a piece of paper in his hand. He glances at Li Chengfang and then at his master, waiting there. "Just say it directly. There are no outsiders here." Gu Yunfei doesn't want to ask Li Chengfang to go out, and it is also impolite to leave by herself. Thinking that there are no secrets to hide recently, she orders the servant who comes in. The servant nodded and flattened the paper in his hand as much as possible. He read, "Sister Yunfei from Splendid Grocery, I am Xiaobei. I just got the news that my brother and sister decided to launch a full-scale attack on Duo Food at noon 3 days later. This attack was a probing attack and not an all-out attack. They would only use the advantage of artillery to destroy the enemy's frontline troops at the border and force the enemy to retreat. They would also adopt the strategy of scorched earth and cleared fields. Big Brother has already started to order the originally arranged warehouse to transport supplies to the front line. I want to tell Big Sister that when transporting supplies, whether it is by water or by land, there is a possibility that the transportation means will be damaged. There are tools in Sister's splendid miscellaneous goods, right? I hope you can provide support along the way and provide free help to the transport team. I will open up the candy house on the side of the road to provide them with a temporary place to rest. If this arrangement will cause losses to Splendid Embroidery, we will transfer the money to Elder Sister through the Great Tang Bank. Elder Sister only needs to provide proof of the losses. Also, we want to temporarily stop the sale of cakes and starch sweets and temporarily turn them into seafood products. We need tools to make and process them. Now send an order to Elder Sister and provide us with tools according to the order. We will pay when the goods are delivered. In addition, ask Splendid Miscellaneous Goods to release the news that my brother and sister did not use Chongpingsong's food reserves in this war, so that the people do not have to worry about the price of food rising too high. Okay, that's what I mean." The servant of the Gu family finished reading up to here, and was in a very good mood. The intelligence actually said a lot of detailed things, and even revealed when the war would be launched. This showed that his master's position in Xiaobei's heart was very high. Li Chengfang was indeed a little jealous. He said in a sour tone, "The war will start at noon 3 days later? I don't know if my Thunderbolt Logistics can help. I think a lot of supplies are already on the way." What he meant was that when the supplies were transported, they did not ask Thunderbolt Logistics and found someone else to transport them. He did not even know when the war would start. Gu Yunfei hesitated for a moment. For a moment, she did not know how to comfort the other party. This kind of information could only be obtained by Xiaobei and the others, and it could be easily spread out. Whoever got the information would be trusted by Xiaobei and the others. At this time, it was not good to comfort others, as it would make others feel that you were acting innocent. Just as she was organizing her words, someone came in from outside. This time, it was a servant of Li Chengfang's family. He was accompanied by someone from the Gu family. "Little Two, what's the matter?" Li Chengfang looked at the person who came in and asked. Replying to Master, "My family's telegraph machine just received a telegram from Xiaobei and the others from Jiannan Road. Do you know? Read it." Li Chengfang ordered in a carefree voice. In an instant, he looked at the pitch-black night outside and suddenly realized that the sky was so blue, the clouds were so white, the sun was shining, and the night wind that whistled past also became gentle. Gu Yunfei smiled and did not say anything. She could understand Li Chengfang's feelings. Without this telegram, he probably would not be able to sleep soundly at night. The servant of the Li family did not know that the master had just secretly crossed swords with the other party, and had almost lost to the point of crying. When he heard the order, he loudly read it. Boss Li Chengfang? Today we just received information that a large number of people from Thunderbolt Logistics have appeared in Suzhou. Have you arrived in Suzhou? Then you must go and see elder sister Yunfei. Let me tell you something. When we were eating dinner just now, we received definite information. 3 days later, at noon, we will begin the war. The logistics and transport teams used will all be my family's own strength. The majority of the dishes in the restaurants will be stopped, and the supply of grain wine will also be reduced. However, there will be more fruit wine. Elder brother and elder sister did not use your logistics. We guessed that they wanted to let you operate as usual to stabilize the flow of goods in the country. This decision was originally not a problem, but we thought of a problem. This problem is that we saw a railway route map in elder brother and elder sister's study. It has already been designed, but no one has been used to repair it. We have accurate information. To build that railway, a direct manpower of 1.2 million was used, of which 200,000 were Great Tang people. They were responsible for assisting and were not in dangerous places. The remaining 1 million were all captured, cheated, bought, and hired from other places. More than 376,000 people died in the construction of the railway. On average, for every 1 li, that is 500 meters, 37 people died. In addition, there were 125,000 people who were seriously injured. The serious injuries we are talking about are those who have broken arms or legs, as well as those who are blind. If they can be treated, they are not considered serious injuries. The remaining people also need to rest. Otherwise, they will not be able to continue working. Thus, there is a shortage of manpower. In addition, there is not enough steel for the railway. Right now, most of it is used to make bullets and artillery shells. We thought about it and felt that it was a waste for your logistics to be placed there. Because you are usually responsible for long-distance transport, you have your own teams for short-distance transport. Thus, we discussed with Dong Long, the owner of the Wanlu Trading Company in Jiannan Province's Izhou Prefecture. We had them organize people to follow behind the army. You can cooperate with them and help transport some things. When there are captives on the battlefield ahead, you can kidnap them together. You don't have to settle with my brother and sister first. You just don't let the captives die. When my brother and sister are almost done, we will need to build the railway. You can send the captives here to work. At that time, according to the cost paid by each side, we will give you a certain amount of authorization for the carriage. If you agree, return the call and start working. There is one more thing that you have to keep secret first. The number of captives captured may not be the same as the ones in Tufan. There may be many on the sea. If you can unite with other merchants and form a large fleet, you can go to other places to deceive some people while you are fetching the captives. Well, that's all. Everything will be clear in the morning 3 days later. Let me remind you, no matter what you see that morning, don't get excited. Everything is under my control. The servant of the Li family stopped reading and then said, "It's over." After listening to the servant, Li Chengfang and Gu Yunfei fell silent at the same time. They were thinking about the matter in the telegram. There was too much content in the telegram, so they had to carefully consider it. After a while, Li Chengfang ordered, "Return the call and say that I agree. We will listen to the arrangements." After the servant left, Li Chengfang turned to Gu Yunfei and said, "I didn't expect that so many people would die or be injured from building the railway. Is this the reason why Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan didn't agree to use the people of the Tang Empire? If the people of the Tang Empire really couldn't bear this kind of pain, what would they do if they were left with disabilities?" Gu Yunfei clasped her hands together. "It sounds like a number. If we use the people of the Tang Empire, it is estimated that 500,000 families will be directly affected. It's too scary. I have decided to listen to Xiao Bei's arrangements. As for the temporary losses, it doesn't matter. My family can still bear it. I'm really afraid that Zhang Xiaobao will use this kind of ruthlessness on me. It can't be said that his hands are stained with blood. He practically swam out of a sea of blood. He walks on the stairs piled up by corpses all the way to the sky. If not, he walks down to discuss matters with the king of hell. Li Chengfang nodded and recalled the contents of the telegram. He said, "What does Xiao Bei mean by the sea? Could it be that there are troops on the sea to fight Duo Shi?" In the morning 3 days later, "What news can there be?" He told me not to be excited. I am very excited now, but I can't explain it clearly. Wait and see. 3 days will pass quickly. The alliance used to react quickly, but this time, they haven't shared any information. We know some things, but we can't tell others. I won't arrange a guest room for you today. You should hurry to Haiyan County as soon as possible to avoid delaying the proper business. Gu Yunfei couldn't think of anything at all. The few steps in front of her were like a thick fog, making people feel fear of the unknown. She couldn't stop and could only follow orders and rush forward. Okay, I will leave now. Li Chengfang didn't dare to delay. He got up and walked out, indicating that Gu Yunfei didn't need to send him off. When he reached the door, he said to Gu Yunfei, "We need to strengthen cooperation in the future. I plan to go to Jiannan Circuit personally." I will go too. Gu Yunfei meant to call her when she left. Chapter 12:19. Gu Yunfei had just sent Li Chengfang to the door. Before she could say goodbye, a group of people came from the road beside them. There were servants holding lanterns in front. Gu Yunfei took a look and recognized them. They were all local merchants from Suzhou. Normally, she did not have much contact with them. Most of the time, it was her housekeeper who met with them to discuss business matters. For example, Jinxiu needed to buy groceries, and local merchants needed to buy goods from other places. Usually, they would only meet once during the new year. They would all come to her house to give her gifts. Even though she was a woman, she was ranked 16th on the list of top billionaires. In the past, she was ranked 24th. Ever since she started working with Xiao Bei and the others, her assets had obviously increased a lot. Naturally, her status also rose along with the tide. And these people who came were not even in the top 500, so they had to be more respectful to her. "Boss Gu, we are really sorry to disturb you so late at night. But we have some misgivings in our hearts, so we have to trouble you." The group of people came closer. Surrounded by people, a middle-aged man spoke to Gu Yunfei with a face full of smiles. He then looked at the person beside him and asked, "This noble is?" "So it is Boss Yuan. It is not very late. If you have something to discuss, let's discuss it. This is the boss of Thunder Logistics, Li Chengfang, Boss Li." Gu Yunfei quickly showed that her status was higher than this group of people. She was not rude and introduced Li Chengfang at the same time. There was a series of gasps on the relatively quiet road. The merchants who had rushed over stared at Li Chengfang without blinking. This was the boss of Thunder Logistics, which was ranked higher than Boss Gu. No wonder Boss Gu personally saw him off. Birds of a feather flocked together, as expected. The merchants respectfully bowed to Li Chengfang again. There was only envy and admiration in their eyes. There was no jealousy because the difference was too great. So great that they could not produce a trace of jealousy. "Boss Yuan, why have you come at this time? Come. Let's talk inside." Gu Yunfei gave way. She already had some guesses in her heart, so she asked now so that she could pull Li Chengfang to deal with it together. No, we're not going in. We're just here to ask. Gu Dongjia is busy, and we're not at ease. Only then did we remember Gu Dongjia's ability. We're here to ask, so we won't waste Gu Dongjia's time. The man with the surname Yuan politely refused. He also knew that he had to enter through the main entrance now. He didn't want to receive this kind of courtesy. One should eat as many bowls of rice as one's ability. He didn't have the ability to enjoy this kind of treatment. Once he did, the consequences would definitely not be good. Someone at the side chimed in. Yes, we just want to ask around. Gu Dongjia, we feel that there is going to be a war soon. Gu Dongjia also knows that every time there is a war, the prices of goods in different places are different. We just want to know if our goods can be adjusted according to the law of the market demand. Gu Yunfei smiled. She looked at the man and said, "What is the law of demand in the market?" "The demand of the market is the demand of the common people. I feel that the greatest demand of the common people is to live in a stable and happy environment, and not to see the price of survival necessities rise day by day, but not be able to afford them. This is the need of the people of the Great Tang, the need of our monopoly business alliance, and even Zhang Xiaobao's personal need. Do you understand?" Understood. The merchants were completely frightened. Before they came, they were still thinking about what to hoard, what to raise the price of, and how much to raise it. Now, it was clear that they couldn't hoard anything. Even if they did, they couldn't raise the price. They didn't expect that the business alliance would not take advantage of this opportunity to make more money. Instead, they started to maintain the stability of domestic prices during wartime. Who would dare to go against the business alliance's orders? As for Zhang Xiaobao, there was no need to say more. His personal will was unconditionally followed by all the merchants of the Great Tang. So Xiaobao didn't agree to the price change. The man with the surname Yuan wanted to confirm. Zhang Xiaobao doesn't allow the price of the people's necessities to fluctuate too much at any time. Our monopoly business alliance follows his footsteps. If you really want to make more money, you can try to raise the price of other goods. Li Chengfang gave the merchants a suggestion. After all, merchants had their own needs. Moreover, Zhang Xiaobao never cared about the price of other things, especially luxury goods. If the cost was 1 copper coin, and one could sell it for 10,000 strings of cash, that was because one had the ability. He just didn't want to see the people not being able to afford rice or wear clothes when they had enough resources. If the country had enough resources, there couldn't be too much fluctuation in the price of these 6 things. As for the other things, the merchants could do whatever they wanted. Linen cloth could be sold for 10 copper coins per bolt, but it couldn't be sold for 13 copper coins. But if one could sell silk for 10,000 copper coins per bolt, that was because one had the ability. When the hospital bought licorice, as long as the licorice wasn't so rare that it couldn't be used on every patient, the supplier couldn't sell it for too high a price. As for the tea leaves that could help with digestion, Zhang Xiaobao wouldn't say that you were wrong if you exchanged 1 caddy for a building. That may I ask, can the price of candles be raised? Isn't it also something that should be used for people's livelihood? Another merchant carefully asked. You can raise the price of candles. People won't die without candles, but I advise you not to hoard candles because the Ministry of Works will release a lot of paraffin wax this month. What you are talking about now should be grease wax. It can't be compared to paraffin wax in terms of smell and longevity. Once you hoard it and release a lot of paraffin wax, you will suffer a lot of losses. Li Chengfang kindly advised. Xiao Bei had already told him that he would first ship a large batch to Jiannan Road. There, Xiao Bei would organize people to process it. The rest of the paraffin wax would be placed in various places in Great Tang. After all, the current oil refining technology was the most primitive. A lot of paraffin wax was produced every day. As long as oil was processed, paraffin wax would appear. Then, people would have to spend a lot of effort to clean it up. Otherwise, it would affect the production. The perverted merchant who asked the question was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Fortunately, he had asked. Otherwise, if he really had to hoard candles, the losses would be huge, especially now that the weather was getting hotter. After repeatedly thanking him, the group of merchants left. They could go back and do business as usual. When the time came, the price of various things would naturally follow a regular pattern. They didn't need to worry about it. Gudongjia, I'll leave now. Tomorrow morning, it's better for the business alliance to issue an announcement to the merchants in various places, so as to prevent them from self-righteously raising the price and causing more losses to themselves. Li Chengfang said to Gu Yunfei, and then disappeared into the night with his subordinates. Gu Yunfei stood there and pondered. She muttered to herself, there will be a lot of paraffin wax released. I'll send a batch of it. When the weather is hot, paraffin wax can be stored better than grease wax. There's no need to worry about it. In Hongnong County, Old Willow Village, the 7th grade official Lu Feifei also received a telegram tonight. Compared to other places, Old Willow Village was special because it was directly under the jurisdiction of the Agriculture Temple. Moreover, the villagers were united. In addition, there was only one iron cable bridge to enter the village. Therefore, they had a separate telegraph machine. Usually, there were at least 4 people guarding the machine room of the telegraph machine 24 hours a day in the village. No outsiders were allowed to come close. Not to mention the machine room, it was difficult to even cross the bridge. There was a small hydroelectric generator near the river in the village to provide power for the village. There were simple shellers and flour grinders in the village. There was also a cutting machine for processing willow branches. There were more light bulbs. At night, the light bulbs placed on the bank would illuminate the opposite bank. With so many advanced equipment, how could they let outsiders come in and see? What if they were robbed? Let me make models. When the time comes, the paraffin wax can be turned into all kinds of fun candles. Mainly in the image of little dolls, including the design of various animals and houses. When they are made into candles, they can be sold together with the grass seed dolls. Also make a lot of willow ware and prepare to provide to the transport team. This was the content of the telegram Lu Feifei received. Xiaobei didn't tell her about the war, so it was not her turn to worry. Feifei, the telegram said to let you prepare to make new dolls? The old villager had to patrol the vicinity of the telegraph machine room for 3 hours every day. Every time a message was sent and received, he had to participate and help to provide the solution. After all, he was a scholar and had good knowledge. The teachers in the school in the village were all personally taught by him. He was a little pedantic. He always wanted to protect his identity as a scholar. However, there was also a benefit. Scholars like him now had backs as strong as iron. If he needed to pick up a sword and a gun to fight, he might not be the most powerful, but he was definitely the most heroic. When the country was rising and falling, escaping was not the choice of a true scholar. He would pull out the sword at his waist and fight to the end with the demeanor of the 6 arts of gentlemen. Therefore, he was the most idle and the busiest person in the world. He would meddle in everything, but at the same time, he would not care about anything. He was like an old hen. As long as the chicks were fine, he would lie under the sun and enjoy the warmth of life, cooing from time to time. But when the chicks were in danger, he would stand up and despise all opponents. He would fight with his life until the enemy fled or he fell down. Now he just wanted to take care of something, especially when the telegraph machine finally rang. Lu Feifei respected this old hen very much. When she heard the old villager ask, she nodded and answered. Yes, Xiaobei said that he would send a lot of paraffin wax. At the same time, he asked us to make more wicker baskets. In the future, we will need them when we transport a large number of other things. He didn't mention when the war will start. The old villager was actually most concerned about the national affairs. No, the war has nothing to do with me. I only care about the trade of willow and the planting of willow trees in the surrounding areas. My official position is to prevent others from bullying me. If anyone sees the high income of willow in our village and wants to get benefits from it, he should first think about how a child like me can be a 7th level official. In the whole Tang Empire, except for Xiaobei's official position, my official position can scare a lot of other local officials. Grandpa, now arrange people to make a large number of willow baskets. Xiaobei said that they will be used soon. Lu Feifei planned to implement Xiaobei's words. The old villager narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment. He nodded and said, So the war is close at hand. Well, it's time for the 5th watch. For the time being, I have kept 500 full attendants. I guess this money is the most difficult to earn because there are not many subscriptions for this book, so there is no need to count on subscriptions. Then there is only the full attendance left. If there were not still people subscribing, I would have given up. But as a web writer, I think I am also a scholar. Like an old hen, I have to have some spirit to protect what I should protect. I am pedantic, but I also have a backbone. So I never ask. I sell my words, not my personality and dignity. So you should take the initiative to vote. Don't wait for me to ask because you can't wait. Chapter 12:20. The time of the bombardment was getting closer and closer. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were staying in Yizhou, seemed to be more leisurely. Zhang Xiaobao patiently made mutton soup and shumai for his younger siblings in the morning, along with cold dishes made of mutton tripe and mutton liver. His younger siblings were stunned when they saw this. "Brother, we're going to war." Xiaobei ate a shumai. Her mouth was full of oil, and she reminded her brother in a muffled voice. "Yes." Zhang Xiaobao wiped his sister's mouth with a napkin. Then he took out a mutton bone from the pot, cracked it, and put the bone marrow on Xiaobei's plate. While cracking the bone marrow for the other 8 little guys, he said, "That's why you have to let others feel your ease and confidence." "Then why does my sister look so serious?" Xiaobei sprinkled some bamboo salt on the bone marrow and waited for her brother's answer. "Because your sister is a soldier. Soldiers have solemnity and iron blood as their foundation. I'm a schemer, so I pretend to be calm and collected. These 2 performances give others the same feeling, which is steady. They say that the army is approaching, but your sister needs to let others know that she will hold on until the last moment. As for me, I want to let others feel less nervous." Zhang Xiaobao said the 2 different performances with a smile. "What about actually?" Xiaobei still asked. "In fact, your sister and I are very afraid. But we are afraid that we can't solve the problem. Since we chose this position, we have to bear the responsibility of this position. If everyone in the Tang Empire can bear their own responsibilities, the Tang Empire will be invincible." Zhang Xiaobao was very fast. In just a few words, he had already finished cracking the bone marrow for each little guy. Xiaobei stared at the bone marrow on her plate. She was very confused and murmured, "What responsibility should I bear?" "You need to think about it yourself. Even if I tell you directly, you may not agree. Eat, or it will get cold." After Zhang Xiaobao finished speaking, he drank a mouthful of mutton soup, smacked his lips, and poured pepper into the bowl. "In the future, I won't ask anything when we eat. The more I ask, the more I think. The food won't taste good." Xiaobei was very good at self-analysis. After eating the bone marrow, he realized that he was missing the process of carefully tasting it. The other 8 little fellows heard Xiaobei's words and realized that they were the same. They all began to adjust their mentality and put their attention on the food in front of them. Wang Wan pursed her lips and smiled at the side. She liked to see Zhang Xiaobao at this moment the most, teaching his younger brother and sister in a silent way. Even the action of tapping the bone marrow and the tone of voice when he spoke required great effort from Zhang Xiaobao to control it. However, his performance was just as he had said just now, calm and collected. In her eyes, at this moment, Zhang Xiaobao was the most handsome, even more handsome than when he was scheming. After dinner, Zhang Xiaobao said to his brothers and sisters, "I'll go with your sister to analyze the information. You guys can play by yourselves. You can go out, but you're not allowed to leave Yizhou City. There are many spies in the city, so you don't have to worry about someone suddenly rushing out and hurting you." While waiting for Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan to go to another room, Xiaobei whispered, "Okay, we definitely won't put ourselves in a dangerous place." After a while, the 9 little fellows finished eating the fruits after dinner. They looked at each other and didn't know what to do. "Can I ask what our responsibilities are?" Lil Bei brought up the matter again. "It's to build the Tang Empire, right?" Xiao Yuan said uncertainly. "Why don't you say to save the building from collapse?" Xiaobei was obviously not satisfied with this answer. Xiao Hai wiped his mouth and said, "Let's go. Our responsibility is to have fun and grow strong. We'll put on some disguises and see what fun things there are in Yizhou City." Xiaobei thought for a moment and nodded. "I think so too. Brother and sister don't need us to do anything earth-shattering. Just like when we taught Pan, and Xiao Yuan when they were young, we'll be happy to see them smile." Therefore, they who had put on some disguises went outside under the protection of a few people who had also put on some disguises. They took on their own responsibilities and played. Yizhou was a famous place, and its bustling scenery was only slightly inferior to the capital, Chang'an. The difference between Chang and Nanchang was that its climate and environment had determined its uniqueness. The blowing wind was less fishy than Luzhou's, but more gentle than Chang'an's. Similarly, The rising and falling voices of hawkers were soaked in the bustling hustle and bustle. There are so many bamboo products, just like the ones in Hangzhou. Look at this little bamboo building, it's actually carved, not woven. Big brother, how much is it? Xiao Bei came to a stall with dozens of bamboo carvings, looking at the little building that had not been painted and inquiring. The seller looked to be in his 30s. When he heard the big-eyed girl in front of him call him brother, he was very happy. He stretched out 4 fingers, but after thinking for a while he withdrew one. Xiao Bei's gaze fell on the seller's hand, and she nodded. 30 coins? It's cheap. I'll buy it. While speaking, she began to take out money from her bag. The seller hastily said, It's 3 coins. I wanted to sell it for 4 coins, but since you're so cute, I'll give you 1 less coin. No, that's definitely not right. Don't lie to me. You're trying to curry favor for no reason. Your motives are not pure. It's only 30 coins. If you give me 1 less coin, I'll report it to the authorities and say that you have other ideas about us. Xiao Bei took out a handful of coins, counted them, and threw them on the stall. Then she happily picked up the bamboo building, called out to little Yuan, and walked forward. The seller was stunned for a while. He did not know what to do. He did not want to take advantage of the child, but he was worried that he would be sued. Even when Xiao Bei and the others were far away, he still had a worried expression on his face. At this moment, little Yuan asked Xiao Bei, Why did you give him so much money? We're not those spoiled brats who don't know what's good for them. Don't you know the value of a bamboo building? It doesn't matter how much the bamboo building is worth. What's important is that the seller's middle finger is injured. There's a cloth tied to it, and the cloth is tied into a beautiful bow. Do you think he's still a child? Xiao Bei pointed out the injury on the seller's middle finger. It can't be right. The bow will affect his carving, little Yuan analyzed. That's right. So this beautiful bow must have been tied by his daughter. What's wrong with me giving him more money to buy something good for his daughter? Xiao Bei said confidently. That's right. Anyway, 30 coins isn't much. The bamboo building's carving is indeed very exquisite. Little Yuan agreed with Xiao Bei's statement. The other kids had no objections. It was just a matter of spending a little more money. It was just like the rich people who worked with others at home in a supermarket chain. They habitually threw the few coins they found into the donation box at the door, and then picked up a beautiful colored origami that was placed next to them. That origami was not worth a single coin at all. It was very quick to make by hand, and the cost of the paper itself was also very low. However, after throwing money and picking up an origami, the harvest was a happy feeling. Of course, there were donation boxes only at the door of the Zhang family's and Wang family's stores. Even if they were made in other places and placed there, no one would throw money at them. No one believed in their quality. Ah, the candy blower. Quick, let him blow a little pig. Xiao Bei's eyes looked around. Suddenly, he found that there was a candy blower on the left side of the road in front of him. He put the pole there to make candy for the 2 children, so he ran over happily. I want a little pig this big. While Xiao Bei said little pig, he gestured a shape the size of a football with his hands. The candy blower looked at Xiao Bei's hand and shook his head. If it's too big, you won't have any strength. Oh, let me blow. Yes, I can eat it myself. If you blow it and blow your saliva in, I can only play with it and throw it away. Xiao Bei understood this very well. He reduced the distance between his hands and made it as big as a glaze. At this time, the candy blower nodded. He took a bamboo slice and stirred it twice in the pot of thin sugar. Then he reached into the bowl with starch and rubbed it. He used the bamboo slice to scoop out a piece of thin sugar, and quickly rolled the thin sugar on his hands, making it stick to the starch. Then he gently took out a small bamboo tube from the bamboo box next to him, and inserted one end into the thin sugar. He signaled Xiao Bei to blow it in front of him. Be gentle. You have to breathe evenly. The candy seller patiently said to Xiao Bei. Xiao Bei nodded, puffed up his cheeks and began to blow. The candy seller's hands moved. After Xiao Bei breathed in 3 times, a beautiful and cute little pig appeared in front of Xiao Bei. The candy seller's 2 fingers gently pinched the back of Xiao Bei's head, sealing the little pig's mouth. Ah, I'm so tired. Uncle, what if the child doesn't know how to blow? Xiaobei asked when he saw the candy blower throw the bamboo tube. He had just blown into another box and stick the little sugar pig with a bamboo stick. Ordinary children are fine. Children who are too young have adults by their side and let them blow. In the past, there weren't so many rules and we were the ones who blew. Later, medical centers all over the country said that directly blowing is not good for the child's health. Now the children of Great Tang are precious. In the end, if the child still can't play, I can only draw it for him. I'll use sugar to draw what he wants and stick it on a bamboo stick. It can also be eaten. Look, the flat bamboo board on the side is used for drawing. We are willing to go through the trouble if we can avoid hurting the beautiful children of Great Tang. While speaking, the candy seller stretched out 2 fingers, meaning that the candy was worth 2 copper coins. Xiaobei directly threw down 5 copper coins and said to the candy seller, "Uncle, I think you are very beautiful too." After saying this, Xiaobei ran forward again, leaving behind the confused old man who shouted, "This is 5 copper coins, not 2 copper coins. You plan to be the child of wealth today, right?" Xiao Yuan asked when he saw that Xiaobei liked to give more money to others. "It's a virgin. Comrade Xiao Yuan, please don't blindly change my gender. I'm not giving away money but recognition. I'm receiving sweetness. Don't you think that Great Tang is very beautiful when you see them?" Xiaobei said to Xiao Yuan like a philosophical person. "I think you are very beautiful. You have always been like this." Xiao Yuan was very afraid that Xiaobei would bully him, so he quickly flattered him, just like how a brother always praised his sister. The sister clearly knew that her brother sometimes did not mean what he said, but she was very happy every time. "Ah, now I don't have to rush to give away money. There is a place in front that specializes in collecting money. Let's go and take a look and see what's inside." Xiaobei first gave Xiao Yuan a bright smile, then pointed to a house with a sign in front. It was a gambling house. Under Xiaobei's gaze, 2 people had already entered. "Gambling is not good," Xiao Yuan advised. "Wrong, it's not good to gamble privately. Buying lottery tickets is not a problem. I don't know if the gambling house collects a lot of taxes. We can't let them take advantage of us. Sigh, this is human nature. We always want to reap without sowing. I'll also experience it today." Chapter 12:21. When Xiaobei arrived at the entrance of the gambling house and was about to step in, 7 people squeezed in groups of 3 or 4. After Xiaobei and the others entered, more than 10 people in different outfits followed them in. "I thought we were going to gamble. I didn't expect there to be a place to drink tea." When Xiaobei entered the house, he found that there was no one shouting or gambling. Instead, there were many people drinking tea in a room that looked like a hall. They seemed to be in a good mood from the way they talked and laughed. Smelling the tea in the air, Xiaobei finally found that his nose was not always sensitive. At least, he couldn't distinguish the type of tea that others were drinking. The curtain leading to the back was lifted from the inside, and a person with a red face walked out. He greeted the others with a smile, found a place to sit, and ordered someone to serve tea. Xiaobei didn't understand and stood there thinking. Xiao Yuan saw it and whispered, "Those who win money and don't care about winning or losing come out to drink tea and eat snacks. Those who care about winning or losing and lose should leave from the back." "Why should we leave from the back? It's only proper to walk in front." Xiaobei couldn't understand. "Who knows? Let's go. Don't you want to see what it looks like inside? Let's go in." Xiao Yuan found that more than 30 people had come in from outside in a short time. She guessed that the secret guards were in place. She pulled Xiaobei and walked in with a person who was walking in the back. When they went in, they found that it was not a place to gamble but an alley. After walking for about 30 steps, they finally heard the noise of shouting. The 9 little fellows and the 6 bodyguards followed the sound and entered. This time, it was bustling with noise and excitement. There were all kinds of people dressed up, and there were even a few who shamelessly bared their arms. They began to look around. The hall was not small, and it was connected to other halls. There were many gambling devices such as mahjong, poker, pai gow, billiards, shaking balls, and so on. How shameless! The things that Big Brother made for entertainment have all been copied by them. Look, there's a chess and go game over there. Where did the dice go? Xiaobei curled his lips. He felt that the people in the gambling house should first pay a patent fee. Let's go. I like the dice game in Big Brother's story the most. Xiaobei got excited and walked to the right. When they entered, the smell of sweat and mud assaulted their nostrils, causing the 9 little fellows to hold their breath for a moment. After a while, they slowly breathed in and adapted to the smell. Only then did their senses feel better. This room was filled with dices. There were people from the gambling house who were the dealers, people who took turns to be the dealers, and there were also people who were 2 people, 3 people, and so on. There were no dealers, and they only competed on the size of the dice. The 9 of them were first brought to a table arranged by a dealer who was dressed in green, and had both his sleeves rolled up. He looked very standard. With his sleeves rolled up, it was to let others know that he was not hiding any dice. The more you buy, the more you lose. The less you bet, the less you earn. Once you're done, leave. The dealer put the 3 dice into the colored cup and shook it for a while. Then, with a flip of his wrist, he turned the colored cup upside down on the table and shouted to the people around him. This table only had the size of the dice, and there was no specific number of points on it. Xiao Feng was very puzzled. The more you buy, the more you lose. Does that mean that if we buy, we will lose? No, it means that if we win, he will pay us more. If we bet less and win, we will earn less. In fact, what they are shouting is that they want us to lose more. It's a common saying. For example, in a pawn shop, if you bring a new piece of clothing, they will immediately shout, bitten by insects and rats, broken thread, faded color and missing edges. Although the specific purpose is different, there must be a rule. Xiao Hai explained to Xiao Feng, meaning that the gambling house wanted to be auspicious. Who wants to go first? Xiaobei took out 5 copper coins from his bag. Each coin was 1 copper coin, so there were 5 in total. He asked the other 8 people. Seeing that the others shook their heads at almost the same time, Xiaobei eagerly said, "If you guys don't want to go first, then I will." After the dealer shook another round, Xiaobei immediately put 1 copper coin in the small place. The others also put in their coins. There were also people watching at the side, in case they did not put in their coins and said that they had let go. Before the gambling cup was picked up, Xiaobei's ears were buzzing from the other people's shouts. The shouts of small and big almost passed through the tent. Everyone was shouting at the top of their lungs, as if the louder they shouted, the more accurate they would be. When the gambling cup was picked up, the 3 dice below were revealed. For 5 big. Xiaobei watched as her 1 copper coin was taken away. He smacked his lips twice, his face filled with heartache. "If you can't take it, let's not play, okay?" Xiao Yuan softly persuaded. "Don't be unable to sleep at night because of losing a few copper coins. I didn't see you frown when you gave them more money just now. It's different. When I gave the money, I was willing to give it. Now, I don't want to lose. I want to win. Outside, I was happy when I gave the money away. Here, I only feel happy when I get the money back. Now I'll give you a task. Think of a way to let me win." Xiaobei was very stubborn about the 1 copper coin she lost. She wanted to win it back, and then win more to comfort her hurt heart. Xiao Yuan shook his head vigorously. "I don't have a way. Why don't we find someone to ask? Look, there's a child beside you. Why don't they go to school and help others get money and introduce them? You count the days yourself. Today is the school rest day set by my brother. Every 3 days, there's a rest day. Otherwise, the child will lose interest in learning. Of course, most children are good. In order to stand out, they usually study very hard. If they haven't suffered the hardship of not being able to afford to study, they won't experience the blessing of studying." Xiaobei spoke as if she had experienced the vicissitudes of life. She was used to speaking like this. As for whether she really understood, it was not important. Xiao Yuan cooperated. "Yes, so it's useless to regret after losing it. It's better to cherish the person in front of you." Okay, I'll cherish it. Especially the opportunity to bully others. If I don't take advantage of the opportunity to bully others, what should I do when I can't bully them in the future? Bet. What are you betting this time? Xiao Yuan was very wise and no longer sought her status in the family. Last time, I lost. This time I'll bet again. I don't believe it. Xiao Bei took another copper coin and pressed it on the small button. Put your bets away. 3 for 5 big. Eat small and lose big. With a clatter, Xiao Bei's copper coin was returned to the other party. Xiao Bei lowered her head and thought for a while. When she raised her head, she muttered, "That's too much of a bully. Brother, help me. Didn't brother say that all gambling houses don't welcome mathematicians? Even if that gambling house says that it's impossible to calculate the rules of the game, it's still the same." Xiao Bei was naturally talking about Xiao Hai. When she said brother, it was Zhang Xiaobao. Xiao Hai's eyes were fixed on the dealer. He did not pay attention to the big and small numbers on the table or the dice. When he heard his sister's question, he helplessly shook his head and said, "No, in theory the chances of big and small are the same. Normally we can win unless our luck is very bad. This is because we only need to look at the numbers of the bets on the table. The side that bets the least amount of money each time has the highest chance of winning. However, there is a problem here. The dealer's rule is that if 3 of the same number of points are the same, they will win. 1 die is divided into 3 and 4 points, 2 dice are divided into 6 and 7 points, and 3 dice are divided into 9 and 10 points. Because the smallest number of 3 dice is 3, there are 2 fewer chances. It is impossible for a 2 and 1 to appear, unless it is the special shaking method in Brother's story. Therefore, in theory, the probability of betting big is higher than betting small. But the dealer also understands this principle. Therefore, when he is shaking the dice, if his skill is good, he will have to take into account his artificial factors. How do you want me to calculate? How would I know the dealer's psychological preference? I have been observing him all this time and found that his eyes are always so indifferent. No matter if it is a big loss or a big gain, I can't detect the slightest change in his expression. Xiao Bei blinked her eyes and said, "It is good to have a good brother. At least we know where the problem lies. So it is the dealer's problem. He is playing a psychological game with us. I guess that he is also calculating. He is calculating the thoughts of the people around the table who are participating in the gambling. He is calculating the profession and personality of each of them. According to this, I won't be able to get my 2 copper coins back today? Really, if I had known, I wouldn't have bet. AI, the landlord doesn't have any extra food." Xiao Bei continued to worry about the 2 copper coins she lost. "I'll do it." Zhang Chang's eyes narrowed. He then found a child who worked at the gambling house and bought a normal dice from him. Zhang Chang held the dice in his small hand and came to the table. He took out 4 copper coins and bet them on small. "Place your bets. For 5, 6 big. Eat small and lose big." The dealer picked up the dice cup and shouted. He did not shout "eat all," which meant that even if the table was shaken with a 1, 2, 3, they would not lose. Zhang Chang did not care. When the dealer finished shaking the dice again, he took out the dice he bought and casually threw it on the table. It was a 4, so he took out 8 copper coins and bet on big. The dealer opened the cup. 1, 3, 2 small. Eat big and lose small. Zhang Chang's 8 copper coins were gone. He continued to wait for the dealer to shake. When the dice cup fell, he took out 16 copper coins and continued to shake the dice in his hand. It was a 2 small. He put 16 copper coins on small. The dealer opened the cup and Zhang Chang lost again. His luck was really bad. However, Zhang Chang did not give up and continued to do so. The amount of money he bet began to change. After a few times, he had bet 4,096 copper coins. There were notes and coins. This amount of money was not small. Many people's monthly wages could not reach this level. The dealer's forehead was sweating. He had already seen that the child who bet money was definitely not from an ordinary family. They did not care about money at all. Of course, his boss was not afraid of them, but he could not always shake out a leopard every time. If he really did that, once the child came home and told him, he would be dragged to a secluded place one night within 3 days. Then he would be buried in the ground or drowned in a river. If he did not shake out a leopard, he could only rely on his years of experience to guess the other party's character and choice when betting. But the problem was that the other party's choice was the size of the dice they threw. He could control the size of the dice he shook, but how could he know if the other party threw a big or small one? The dealer trembled, and his eyes began to look elsewhere. He wanted to find the adult who came with the child. As long as he found the adult, it would be easy. He could continuously shake out small. Even if his luck was bad, he believed that he could still lose once. At most, he would lose 4 copper coins. For example, the next round was 8,192 copper coins. After losing, the child had already lost 8,188 copper coins. Overall, he would lose 4 copper coins. He would just treat it as playing with the child. Otherwise, he would not be able to bear it. Chapter 12:22. The dealer glanced around and found that there were adults following the child. He could confirm that there were 4 of them. The 4 of them were expressionless, and their gazes did not linger in one place. The 4 of them split into several directions and looked back and forth. It was obvious that the 4 of them were bodyguards, and very responsible ones at that. When the child they were protecting lost 4 strings of money, they were still indifferent. This showed that they did not care about this little bit of money. The dealer felt bitter in his heart. The gambling house opened its doors like a mouth, swallowing guests from all directions. There were winding corridors inside, encircling 8 sources of income. As long as it was a gambler, the gambling house would eat it according to the rules. But no matter what, there was always an exception. Some people's money could be earned, but some people's money could not be earned. Why did the gambling house leave a back door? According to feng shui, one only ate and did not vomit. If one lost and wanted to leave, they had to leave through the back door and not the front door. At the same time, it was said that there was entry and exit, and the entry and exit was for survival. As a dealer, he had to know how to live and know how to judge people. He needed to compromise now, otherwise, no matter how many doors were left open, he would not be able to survive. The dealer secretly calculated. He had already picked up the dice and slowly put them into the dice cup one by one. This was different from before. Previously, he had just lightly tossed the dice cup, and the 3 dice went in. Xiaobei had been observing the dealer, and found that something was wrong. He whispered to Xiaohai, "Brother, the dealer seems to be panicking. Look at the corners of his mouth and eyes. The corners of his mouth are moving unnaturally and his eyes are looking up and down." Xiaohai nodded. This is a case of the shop bullying the customer and the customer bullying the shop. Xiao Chong scared him. Xiao Chong did the right thing. He fully used his advantage. What advantage? Xiaobei asked. The advantage of having money. Xiao Chong actually wants to help you win back the money you lost, and win 2 more strings of money to make everyone happy, Xiaohai explained. Xiaobei was confused. How? How do you calculate it? Win back my money and then get 2 more strings of money. Now it's more than 4,000 strings of money. Xiao Chong first bet 4 strings of money, then he doubled it every time. If he won in the end, he would get 4 strings of money. If he won in the end, he would win in the end. In fact, a string of money is not that much. After 10 times, it would be 1,024 strings of money. After 10 times, it would only be 1,000,000 strings of money. When Little Hai started talking about simple mathematics, he didn't need to stop and slowly calculate it. He just opened his mouth and said it out loud. This was a talent that made people admire him. Xiaobei blinked her eyes in confusion. In any case, she couldn't calculate without a pen. Listening to Brother Xiaohai wasn't wrong. Thinking of the money at home, Xiaobei said, "Brother, you don't have time to think about making more money. You send people to bring back things from faraway places, and send them to the Senongsi temple for them to cultivate. Our family's money adds up to more than 300 million strings of coins, right? And this was the amount that was sent to the various disaster areas every year. Actually, I also felt that it was meaningless. 300 million strings of cash was equivalent to 300 billion copper coins. How was I supposed to spend it? There are only 2 places to spend money. One is the Research Institute of the Ministry of Works, and the other is the disaster area. But we can't expect the Great Tang to suffer a disaster, right? I still haven't figured out how to spend the money we earn every year. My plan is to discuss with Big Brother and Big Sister and come up with an idea. We'll get the Ministry of Works to develop targeted technologies that we can use in all the schools in Great Tang. Big Brother, do you think everyone will support this? Xiao Bei was very worried that her proposal wouldn't be passed when the final vote was held. Xiao Hai nodded. It shouldn't be a problem. We don't need a lot of money either. A good restaurant does have a meal that costs more than 100 strings of coins. But if we want to eat good food, why should we go to other people's restaurants? That's not being rich, that's being sick. Ha! What's the banker doing? The two of them chatted for a while before realizing that the banker's actions were very slow. First, he slowly loaded the dice, then shook it. After waiting for a long time, he finally put the dice cup on the table. Now he covered his stomach and ran away. He didn't eat well for breakfast. Did he have a stomachache? Xiao Bei helped the banker think of an excuse. When she looked at the money on the table again, she understood and said with a sneaky smile, I guess the money in the dice cup is big. Xiao Chong is betting big now, but there's another person who actually bet 60 strings of cash. He doesn't want to open it. No, look at what's on the 60 strings of cash. Xiao Bei's eyes were sharp and saw what was on the bill. It's copper coins? There's no hole in the middle. Is it a copper pad? There's also a picture on it. It's a person's side profile. It looks very familiar. Xiao Bei stretched her neck and looked twice. Of course it's familiar. When we play poker, we usually use the same thing. It's just a little thinner than the ones on the table, Xiao Bei said. Oh, I know. Gold. Our gold chips were specially made by Big Brother. One is comfortable to look at and feel. The other is that Chinese medicine doctors say that gold is medicine, and that it calms the heart and mind when placed next to it. But Big Sister doesn't admit it. She says that it's better to put a bunch of magnets instead. It has a magnetic field effect. Xiao Bei finally found a chance to speak. Xiao Bei found that things had become complicated. When she came in, she only wanted to win a few copper coins to satisfy herself. Now even gold appeared in front of her. Gold can't be circulated. Thinking about this, Xiao Bei waved at a person who was squatting next to a gambling game of throwing dice into a bowl with his chin in his hand. That person, Wei Wei, was stunned. Then, she stood up and came to Xiao Bei. Brother Susi, you know a lot. Look at that gold. What's going on? Xiao Bei asked the person. Susi was really stunned this time. He was stunned for a while, and even secretly took out a small mirror to look at himself. He looked at Xiao Bei in shock. How could Xiao Bei still see through his disguise when he had already disguised himself like this? You're always holding your chin with one hand, and touching your ears with the other. No matter if you're standing, sitting, or squatting, other people find it awkward, but you use it so smoothly. I've never seen a second person do this. Xiao Bei explained to Susi with understanding. Susi regretted that he didn't have a good memory. Someone had mentioned before that his habitual movements were too obvious. He didn't expect Xiao Bei to notice it. Seeing that Xiao Bei was waiting for him to answer, Susi carefully looked at the gold on the table. He rolled his eyes and softly said to Xiao Bei, It should be money. It's like the copper coins and silver pieces we used before. But now it's made of gold. Oh, gold used to be used before. The circulation circle was fixed. Ordinary people couldn't spend it. They could only sell it based on its weight or make jewelry. Brother Susi, how much do you think that piece of gold is worth? I feel that it's bigger than the gold we played with. How heavy is our gold? In truth, what Xiao Bei was most curious about was where the money came from. The Great Tang couldn't possibly have gold circulating in the marketplace. Besides being used as decorative goods, the majority of the Great Tang's gold and silver had been stored in the vaults to ensure the value of the Great Tang's currency, which was the gold standard. 5 grams. Susi was very familiar with this. He looked at the gold on the note and said, looking at the size and thickness of his gold, it should be less than 10 grams. At this time, not only were Xiao Bei and the rest paying attention to the gold on the note, the other gamblers were also very curious. In the past, there were people who took out silver pieces to gamble. But today it was strange. There was actually someone who put out gold. They couldn't blame the banker for leaving. They must have gone to report and see how the gambling house would deal with it. The gambler Weiwei, who took out 60 strings of coins and a piece of gold, raised his head and revealed a faint smile. With his hands behind his back, it made people feel that he was showing off. Obviously, Xiaobei didn't allow others to show off in front of him. He looked at the gold and turned his head to Su Si and said, "Even if it's 10 grams, one tael, one tael, one tael, one tael, one tael can be exchanged for 2 to 5 taels of silver. It depends on the purity. Let's say that it's 5 taels, 1/4 multiplied by 5 is 1.25 taels of silver. Every tael can be exchanged for 800 to 1,000 copper coins. I'll give him 1,000, but that's only 1,250 copper coins. It's not even as much as his 60 strings of coins. What a fool. The main thing is that such a large piece of gold is not common. I wonder what his family does for a living. 60 strings of coins? If it were an ordinary family, would they be willing to take out 2 to 3 years of their income to gamble?" Su Si began to size up the person who took out the money and gold. He wanted to judge the other party's occupation and family conditions through his clothes and expression. After looking at him for a while, Su Si became more and more confused. This person was in his 20s, and his clothes added up to less than 30 copper coins. His hair was black and not shiny, and his exposed hands were slightly rough. His fingernails were not trimmed, and there was black mud in the middle. His shoulders were slightly protruding, and his neck was tilted forward. When he raised his head, it was very awkward. Such a person shouldn't have 60 strings of coins. It was impossible to say that he stole. Whether it was playing with knives or fishing, his hands were not suitable. They were too hard and were not well maintained. And from the color of his hair, he ate a lot of vegetables on a daily basis. Occasionally he ate meat, but he didn't eat snacks, especially nuts. Otherwise, it would be impossible for his hair to not shine. Looking at Xiaobei, it was clear. His hair was bundled up and tied together to form a buckle. As long as he let go of his hand, the buckle would unbuckle. It was very elastic. While Su Si was trying his best to guess, the banker, who had just left holding his stomach, rushed back. He gave an apologetic smile to the people waiting for him and explained, "I have a bad stomach. Maybe it's because I drank too much herbal tea in the morning. My stomach is not good. Please forgive me." "Open it, open it." The people waiting for him shouted. They didn't care if his stomach was uncomfortable or not. The most important thing was to open the cup and see if it was big or small. "Open it, open it. Place your bets. 556 big. Eat small and lose big." The banker happily picked up the cup. Sure enough, it was big. Xiao Chang won. He won 4 strings of coins. To be precise, it was 2 strings of coins. There was also the 2 strings of coins that Xiaobei lost. What should be lost had been lost. Only the person who took out the 60 strings of coins and the piece of gold was left. The banker quickly took out the 60 strings of coins and pulled out a rod like a magic trick. To be precise, it should be called a mace. It was not clear whether it was used to measure money or which pharmacy he got it from. Perhaps it would be known if he got close to it and smelled it. Normally, using a mace to measure money was a few strings of coins, a few fun, and a few centimeters. But now the weights and measures were relatively chaotic. When it was used among the people, it was still according to money. Once it was involved, it was mainly based on grams. The banker measured the piece of gold and smiled at the person. He said, "It weighs 7.5 grams. According to the rules, you can't lose everything. There is a discount. How about I give you 600 copper coins?" According to Xiaobei's calculation, 600 copper coins was indeed too little. However, if the gold was processed into beautiful jewelry, it might be a bit more expensive. There was no fixed price for it if it was directly sold. When the person heard that he was going to give him 600 copper coins, he revealed a very complicated and reserved smile. He then took out an item from his bosom and said, 600 copper coins is fine. I also have a bead. How much can it be worth? Chapter 12:23. The thing that this person took out was a pearl. It was white in color, and was held in the palm of his hand. As the surrounding people swayed, the light on the pearl changed in intensity. The gamblers who had surrounded him subconsciously stepped back, afraid that they would not be able to afford to pay for it if they damaged it. Even the knowledgeable banker could not help but show a surprised expression. He narrowed his eyes and estimated that the pearl was about 2 centimeters in diameter. It was uncertain whether it was a 6-part pearl or a 7-part pearl. However, no matter which one it was, the value of this pearl would not be low. Ordinary people could not have it, otherwise it would be a crime. All kinds of eyes flashed in the eyes of the surrounding people, and all kinds of expressions changed on the faces of the people. In a trance, the light of the pearl seemed to illuminate the entire hall. With their silence, more and more people around them were affected, so they followed the gaze and were shocked together. The entire hall was quiet in a very short time. Isn't it just a 7-part pearl? Look at you fiddling with it. Don't you know that the sweat on your hands is harmful to the pearl? At least wash your hands first. Look at the pearl. It's yellow because of you. Is that mud or oxidation? It means that it's been there for a long time. Xiao Bei's voice suddenly sounded. She could not bear to see someone rubbing a pearl with a dirty hand and putting it on a piece of silk. It looked good, didn't it? It was a pity that the pearl could be ground into powder and drunk with water to calm the nerves. How could it be eaten with so much sweat? When the person who took out the pearls heard Xiao Bei's words, she hurriedly rubbed her other hand against her body. When the pearls were turned upside down, her other hand rubbed against her body again. Then, she looked at her dirty fingernails and awkwardly bent them, trying not to attract too much attention. Here, put it on. Xiao Bei kindly took out a piece of silver-white satin folded 4 times from her bag, and raised her arm to hand it over. Thank you, thank you. The person who brought the pearl put his hands under the satin, and held the pearl up. This way, it could cover his dirty hands. As soon as the pearl was placed on the silver-white satin, it immediately showed a different luxurious appearance from before. It made people who saw it feel a trace of purity in their hearts. The banker narrowed his eyes. He was a person who knew what was what. The silvery white satin looked white, but if one looked closely, they would find that there was embroidery on it. The unique style of Hangzhou embroidery was unforgettable after seeing it once. Using silver thread to embroider on silver satin was something that ordinary people would not be able to do. This was an extremely low-key luxury. When the person holding the pearls moved slightly, the matching light on the satin rippled like the surface of a lake, causing the banker's eyes to widen. He took a deep breath, but it was stuck in his throat. He wanted to exhale, but he couldn't. The patterns on the satin were actually auspicious clouds and phoenixes. It was a legendary masterpiece used in the inner palace. A few hoarse sounds came from his throat as the banker trembled. This piece of satin was much more valuable than the pearls on it. In a state of near exhaustion, the Zhuang family's patriarch heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, he didn't offend anyone for a few thousand copper coins. Where did these children come from? They 1, 2, 3, 8, 9, 9? Why 9? Why were there 4 boys and 5 girls? Why was that? Do you have nothing better to do? Why didn't you play in the Blue Sea Silver Sand restaurant after breakfast? Why did you have to come to the gambling house? The banker complained in his heart. He didn't say anything, but his hands were moving. He opened his palms and slowly placed them on his thighs. He didn't move at all. He was really afraid that his actions would cause a misunderstanding at some point in time. He was afraid that he would have to bid farewell to this world of mortals without an explanation. The banker guessed and confirmed the identity of the children who had lost so many rounds, but he wouldn't tell anyone. He was nervous and happy at the same time. The others didn't know the identity of the children who liked to gamble, so they were all focused on the pearls. Xiao Bei was also looking. She was wondering if eating the sweaty pearls would cause her to be poisoned. They're bigger than our pearls, Xiao Yuan whispered to Xiao Bei. Are you saying that the pearls in front of us are bigger than the ones in our house? Xiao Bei measured with her hands. The pearls in her house were the size of a goose egg. She had once thrown them on the marble floor. They were quite elastic and sturdy. She heard from her brother that there was another one that was the size of a chicken egg at that time. They were afraid that the news would spread to the palace and cause Uncle Emperor to suddenly fall ill with a disease that could only be treated with big pearls, So they sent it to Uncle Emperor before he got the news and fell ill. Sure enough, Uncle Emperor recovered before he fell ill. Xiaoyuan obviously didn't mean that. She continued to whisper. I'm talking about the pearls that we raised. They're not as big as this one, not even the biggest one. You don't need to say that. They've only been raised for a few years. We still have to wait. Why do you think he brought the pearls here? It can't be for everyone to admire, right? Isn't he afraid that it will be snatched away? I don't even dare to take out the pearls in my bag to play with. Xiaobei suddenly remembered what the other party wanted. They could take out pearls in the gambling house, but that was when they had no money. This person clearly won 60 strings of cash just now, but he actually took out the pearls. What did he want to do? The dealer also wanted to know clearly. He subconsciously glanced at Xiaobei and the other 9 people. He coughed twice to draw everyone's gaze back. He smiled implicitly and said to the person who brought the pearls, I don't know if this little brother is planning to sell the pearls or just let us see what they look like when they're 70% big. When the dealer asked, the others finally reacted. Since you just won 60 strings of cash, why did you take out the pearls? Did you want to tell others that you have pearls? Seeing that the other party didn't answer, the dealer still smiled and said, If you want to sell them, I'll make the decision today. None of the jewelry stores in Ijo City will pay more than the gambling house. If it's the latter, then we have to thank this little brother. It's rare to see pearls today. Today, I'm so lucky to be so close to see them. I really don't want to waste my life. However, this little brother should quickly put away the pearls. There are too many eyes. You have to be careful. Am I right? Come on, don't be idle. Let's continue playing. After the dealer finished speaking, he really stood straight again. He picked up the dice and the color cup, and was about to start. The person who brought the pearls looked around. Seeing that the others were no longer paying attention to him, he felt very bored. He smiled embarrassedly, shook his head, and began to put the pearls in his arms. This big brother, wait. Wait a minute, can you return my handkerchief to me? Xiaobei was anxious. After looking at the pearls, why did he have to give a piece of Hangzhou embroidery that was more valuable than the pearls in front of him? Do you know how much this silvery white silk is? It's mutated, not the ordinary kind. I'll buy it. The person who brought the pearls casually threw the 10 strings of cash to Xiaobei. He didn't need Xiaobei to give him change. He was in a good mood today, so he was generous for once. Damn, there's actually someone who dares to throw money at us? Xiaobei, get out of the way. Today I'll show him. Come, take out your pearls. I'll buy them. Xiaoyuan stepped forward and said to him. Anyway, he wasn't worried that the other party would run away with the handkerchief. Buy. Can you afford it? Pearls are priceless. Do you know that? The person holding the pearls shook his head. I found out. You're just here to show off. You can continue to show off. Return the handkerchief to us. We're used to using that handkerchief, so we're not selling it. Xiaoyuan couldn't be bothered with the other party. It was fine as long as he got the handkerchief back. If he encountered such a situation in the future, he shouldn't interfere. It was annoying. The person with the pearls chuckled and said, Why don't I let you see it again and let you enjoy it? I'll return the 10 strings of cash to you. It won't change. He really couldn't bear to return the handkerchief. When he touched the handkerchief, he felt a cool and comfortable feeling. He felt that the handkerchief was not bad, so he planned to keep it. You're not buying, you're robbing. We know that it wasn't easy for you to get the pearls. We got a handkerchief. Let me ask, where did you get the pearls? As Xiaoyuan spoke, he suddenly thought of a very important question. Looking at the other party's appearance, he didn't look like someone who could have pearls. Otherwise, how could he not recognize the silver silk embroidery? Compared to normal silver silk, it had a thicker feeling. Because the color didn't differ much at first glance, it was very difficult to choose, and the quantity was small. The other party couldn't recognize it, and couldn't even recognize the simplest embroidery. This meant that the other party lacked a foundation. Then where did the pearls come from? The pearls in my hand are. Why should I tell you? In the past, people looked down on me and said that I was poor and had no ambition. Look, am I still poor now? Ambition? Poor people have short ambition. I, Lu Feng, want to let those who look down on me know that I, Lu Feng, am not poor. They are blind. Humph. I can marry a daughter from a better family. I have money. The self-proclaimed Lu Feng's mental state was not very good at this time in Xiao Yuan's opinion. It was probably because he had such a bad memory. When he wanted to form a family, he was restrained by financial matters, so he didn't form one. But who did you come to the gambling house to show off to? Could it be someone who opened a gambling house? That 7-centimeter pearl was still far from enough. If people look down on you because of money, now that you have a pearl, as long as you don't cause trouble, they still won't take a second look at you. Xiao Bei always felt that the money and pearls in Lu Feng's hands came from an improper source. He rolled his eyes and smiled, saying, "Big brother Lu Feng, I also have a pearl. Take a look and see if it's from the same place as yours." As she spoke, Xiao Bei rummaged through her bag. She didn't know where she had stuffed the pearl. After rummaging for a while, she pinched a pearl and took it out of her bag. "Look, it's a little bigger than your pearl." Xiao Bei shook the hand that pinched the pearl and said to Lu Feng. Lu Feng's eyes widened. He picked up his pearl and put it next to Xiao Bei's hand. Comparing the two, he found that his pearl was smaller than Xiao Bei's. The surrounding people very cooperatively exclaimed in surprise. Today was an eye-opener. "Impossible. How do you also have a pearl?" "It's absolutely impossible. They said that other than me, there's no one else." Lu Feng's confidence that had just risen was destroyed by Xiao Bei's big pearl. Who are they? If you tell me, maybe I can give you the pearl directly." Xiao Bei shook the hand that pinched the pearl and asked expectantly. Lu Feng was silent. He gritted his teeth and suggested, "They are immortals. They won't meet a mortal like you. Do you dare to bet with me? Whoever wins will get the other party's pearl." "Bet, I agree. I'll bet with you. Not only the pearl, but also all the money I have." Before Xiao Bei could answer, there was a voice of agreement behind her. Xiao Bei turned around in surprise. She giggled and said, "Brother, you must win and bankrupt him." Chapter 12:24. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan, who were also in disguise, appeared together. Originally, the two of them had wanted to carefully study the specific tactical arrangements, and then send them to various parts of the battlefield. Later, they felt that there was no need. The leading generals of various places had already learned very well. In addition, their weapons were advanced. Even if they hesitated at the moment of attack, they could still send back information in time through telegrams. At that time, they would analyze the specific problems. Even if they came up with a good idea now and sent it over, what if the actual situation they encountered was different? What should they do? This was what it meant when the general said that some orders from the emperor were not obeyed. If the general at the front needed to consult with the Ministry of War behind to use any formation, then what was the point of fighting? In Wang Wan's opinion, not to mention the tactical arrangements of various places, even strategic adjustments had to be consulted with the commanding general at the front. You wanted him to complete the strategic objective and pass through in a short time. But in front of him was a snowy mountain. How could he pass through? There was no time at all. This was because the enemy did not have telegrams at the moment. Otherwise, they would need to use electronic silence. The commanding general was very important. Zhang Xiaobao and Wang Wan considered this situation and decided to temporarily let the commanders of various divisions act freely. They just needed to set the strategic objective into a large framework. The two of them had nothing to do, so they came over to see what their younger brother and sister were doing. Before they entered, they already knew what their younger brother Xiaochang was doing. It was not a calculation of a gambling game at all. Instead, it was a big gamble. They used their imposing manner to make the banker not dare to cheat. And they used enough money to balance out the small difference in probability. In the end, they would win 4 copper coins. Unless they bet a lot at the beginning, they would only win more. Xiaochang's method unconsciously displayed the basic rules of capital operation. The more money there was, the easier it was to make money. The bad thing was that although this way of development was stable, the speed of making money was slow. The fastest and best method was to have the sum of expenses and income be zero in a cycle. In other words, there was no profit or loss. The money was always invested as quickly as possible after the profit. Wang Wan felt that this method was the best theory of capital operation in a situation where the risk was relatively high. But Zhang Xiaobao felt that it was best to always put the company in a negative capital operation situation. After overdrawing all the resources the company had, part of the risks or benefits would be transferred to credit institutions. In Wang Wan's eyes, doing so was the behavior of a lunatic. As long as there was the slightest mistake, the capital chain would immediately be cut off. Not only would all the previous income not be returned, but the operator would also owe a large amount of debt. However, Zhang Xiaobao believed that this was the most stable way of development. This was because when operating at a deficit, many credit institutions were tied together, and they could even rope in the political system to participate. Even if there was a little risk, there would be people who would be anxious and help to find a way to solve it. As a result, they had unknowingly overestimated the assets of their own companies. In other words, the local political and credit institutions clearly knew that their own companies were not worth so much money, but in order to recover their investment, they had to continue to increase the amount of loans and preferential policies for their own companies. Otherwise, everyone would be doomed. Therefore, according to Zhang Xiaobao's actual standard, he shouldn't have only earned this little bit of money after so many years. He should have more because Wang Wan didn't allow him to do so. Wang Wan absolutely believed that if she let go of the restrictions, Zhang Xiaobao would play even crazier, and no one would be able to stop him. Since he could not gamble with the economic system of the whole society, Zhang Xiaobao wanted to participate in the small gambling game when he saw it. He had not played for a long time, and his hands were itching. As the main participant of the game, Lu Feng did not know how terrible his opponent was, mainly because he did not know who his opponent was. After seeing a bigger pearl, and knowing that his opponent was noble and had a lot of money, he thought that his opportunity to make a fortune had come. He had a unique skill of playing dice, at least that was what he thought. He was not a native of Izhou City, but a person from a nearby village, very far away. When he was at home, he won some money because no one had money. Even if he wanted to win tens of thousands of strings of coins, the total bet of others could not reach that amount. Later, when he was about to make a fortune, he was exposed. He actually used mercury dice. After paying the money, he was even poorer. Therefore, people were not willing to marry their daughters to him, because they thought that one was poor, and the other was not good quality. His bad quality showed that he was active and opportunistic. Later, he found a way to make a fortune. Now he planned to make more money and make a name for himself. He wanted to go back and show off to those who had looked down on him before. Many people knew that mercury dice could be used to cheat, but not everyone could do it. It required skills and a long time of practice. Mercury was flowing. When it was put in the dice, its weight would be different. Almost no one could tell that it was the effect of the Earth's gravity. The trick to playing mercury dice was to control the strength and get used to it. It was like chopsticks. When you threw chopsticks with uniform weight, it was different to make them spin once or twice. It was easy to make them spin once. After using chopsticks for a long time, they had developed a habit of strength. It was not difficult to make them spin once, but it was very difficult to make them spin 3 times. However, it was relatively easy to change to chopsticks with a heavy end and a light end. It could be done with practice. The mercury dice followed the same principle. The moment the dice was thrown, due to the fluidity of mercury, it would cause the dice to receive an uneven force. If one grasped this degree well, the dice would be able to produce the desired number under certain circumstances. Lu Feng had 3 sets of dice in his hand, each with 3 pieces. The inside of each set was mercury. The color of the outside was different from the material, so it was easy to confuse. If he played with the dealers in the gambling house, he would not dare to change the dice. If he was caught, his hands would be chopped off. Right now, he was bullying outsiders. Outsiders were not people who came from the outside but people who were amateurs. Lu Feng thought that since the children were from rich families, it was impossible for them to be good at gambling, unless they started their business by gambling. However, from what he saw, it was obviously not the case. He decided to cheat them. He would win the big pearl and more money. After that, he would return to his village and teach all the people who had looked down on him a lesson. Xiao Bei and the other 9 children did not consider what dice Lu Feng would use or how to play. In their opinion, as long as their brother made a move, there was no possibility of losing. Their brother was a godlike existence. As long as they were by their brother's side, even if the sky collapsed, there would be a piece of sky that would continue to float above, because their brother was standing below. Many children were like them, worshipping their parents. Boys generally thought that they should be like their father, and then find a woman who was similar to their mother to marry. Girls were the opposite. It wasn't incest. People who thought like that were too filthy. It was a very normal family habit. Sadly, many boys and girls grew up and received a better education with the help of their parents. Then they turned around and looked down on their parents. Under natural development, this was not wrong. Old wolves would eventually be replaced by strong wolves. Human development could not be like this. This was the reason why wolves could only be kept in zoos. Human parents always hoped that their children would be better than them. However, many people who did not have children always felt that their parents were holding them back, causing their development to be slower than others. Then they felt that their parents were very stupid. They did not know how to do this. They did not know that. They taught them many times, but they could not remember. Of course, if such people met Xiao Bei would scold them to death. How many times do you need to teach them? Do you know how hard it is to teach children? I tell stories to Pan Air and the others over and over again, but in the blink of an eye, they forget. What did I say? It was also because they had taught younger children that Xiao Bei and the others were more sensible than many older people. Even now, they still worshipped their brother and sister and swore to learn well. In the future, they would not need their brother and sister to worry about them. They would be able to support the entire family. Xiao Bei and the others worshipped Zhang Xiaobao. In the entire hall, other than the Zhang family and the Wang family, only the Zhuang family knew about it. No one else thought about it. The Zhuang family was very excited. When he saw the legendary figure, he was even more excited that he was able to guess who the 9 little guys were. He really wanted to leave, find the boss, and tell him to increase the security of the gambling house. It would be best if he could persuade everyone else to leave. He could not let them make any mistakes, even if they were disturbed. However, he did not dare. He understood human nature very well. If the other party did not have fun in the gambling house today, the gambling house's consequences would be very tragic. Let's play dice. Big brother wants to gamble with him. Xiao Bei turned his head and said to the Zhuang family in front of him, I'll try first. I've never seen Big Brother play dice before. Let Big Brother see how to play. Xiao Chang took out a few copper coins and signaled for the Zhuang family to roll the dice. At the same time, he also prepared his own dice. The Zhuang family was about to cry. He secretly cursed, Little guy, you're too much of a bully. My dice is not the same as yours. Can't your big brother deal with me? Although he thought this in his heart, he had no choice but to roll the dice. The crashing sound stopped when the dice cup fell. The Zhuang family raised his head and looked at Zhang Xiaobao expectantly. Zhang Xiaobao and Wei Wei smiled and said to their younger brother, Xiao Chang, just play 3 rounds, okay? People with pearls don't need other people's help. Okay. Xiao Chang happily agreed. He was about to throw out the dice in his hand. He wanted to bet 3 copper coins. It was not that he couldn't take out more money, he just wanted to play. However, Zhang Xiaobao picked up the dice in Xiao Chang's hand and casually threw it. It was a too small. The Zhuang family was stunned. Then he let out a sigh of relief and said, Place your bets. He opened the dice cup. The 3 dice inside were 1, 3, 4, and 4. 1, 3, 4. Eat big and pay small. He gave the 3 copper coins to Xiao Chang. Then, the dice cup fell steadily. Zhang Xiaobao threw the dice. It was a 5. The Zhuang family opened the dice cup. 4, 4, 6. Eat small and pay big. For the 3rd time, Zhang Xiaobao waited for the Zhuang family to finish rolling the dice. He threw a 1. The Zhuang family opened the dice cup. 3, 3, 2. Eat big and pay small. After shouting and giving the money to Xiao Chong, his eyes were full of shock. He already knew that Xiao Bao could hear the sound of the dice in his dice cup. This was definitely not a fluke. After 3 rounds, he did not believe that Xiao Bao was lucky. Then he looked at Lu Feng with a pitiful expression. He said in his heart, "You are dead meat. You could have chosen anyone, but you chose Xiao Bao." Wang Wan's beautiful eyes were also shining. She had never seen Zhang Xiaobao play dice. The information she collected before also did not mention it. But after thinking about it, she felt that it was normal. Zhang Xiaobao first learned his skills in prison. There were many gambling gods who broke their arms, legs, or eyes. Plus, Zhang Xiaobao was smart and hardworking. She believed that it would not be difficult for him to learn a few skills. "How come I have never heard that you are good at gambling before?" Wang Wan touched Zhang Xiaobao. She moved her lips. Zhang Xiaobao also moved his lips. "Because you did not send the meteor squad to deal with me. I have always been gambling in private. If I had known, I would have sent the meteor squad to deal with you," Wang Wan said. Zhang Xiaobao chose to be silent. The meteor squad he had at that time was many times stronger than the meteor squad that had just been formed not long ago. If they were to fight, it would be the worst-case scenario. Although the meteor squad was strong in the world, the meteor squad was not the only strong organization. There were other ruthless people and mercenaries. What's the point of watching a little kid play? Little brother, let's compete. Lu Feng felt the pressure. He had won 3 times in a row. Was it true ability or good luck? Zhang Xiaobao was indeed not 20 years old. Moreover, he was different from other people who looked mature at a young age. He had always looked very youthful, even his eyes. If there was no special description, he would be a gigolo who lived off women. However, in reality, this gigolo only freeloaded on a certain country. When he was full, that country would collapse. He was very handsome, especially his hands. They were slender and fairer than a woman's hands. In Wang Wan's eyes, his hands were red and stained with blood. If she had to find a dignified saying, according to Zhang Xiaobao's words, "Buddha is merciful, but there are still 18 arhats." After killing people, they would turn back and be saved. After killing people, they would put down the butcher's knife and become Buddha immediately. Even if he was kicked to hell by thousands of creatures, he still dared to make friends with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. "I'm doing this for you. I'm afraid you'll be lonely." Zhang Xiaobao showed his hands and said to Lu Feng, "How do you want to bet?" "You and I will throw dice in a bowl. Whoever gets the most points wins. It's a best of 3. Lu Feng suggested. "Okay. Someone bring the bowl and dice." Zhang Xiaobao followed the suggestion. The dice and bowl were brought over. The people around consciously took 2 steps back, looking forward to today's game. Zhang Xiaobao slowly rolled up his sleeves, revealing his forearms. He asked Lu Feng, "Who's going first?" Lu Feng grabbed 3 dice, and was about to throw when Zhang Xiaobao stopped him. "Roll up your sleeves. To be honest, you need to be topless to play dice. It's not elegant. You should at least roll up your sleeves, right?" Wang Wan smiled at the side. She knew that Zhang Xiaobao wanted to win with skills and not tricks. It was impossible for him to not show his arms. His wide sleeves were enough to hide a set of mahjong tiles, let alone dice. Many people who practice close-range magic usually rolled up their sleeves to give others the impression that they were not cheating. However, they would always roll up their sleeves. Hence, the rolled-up sleeves would become something to store props, and they could store a lot of things inside. Therefore, when she saw the magician touching the sleeves, she was not interested in watching. What she admired was the kind of magic that was purely technical. The magician knew that the magician's magic was fake, but because the magician's hand movements were too fast, it was faster than the human eye could react, thus achieving the goal of deception. This was real skill. As for the magician who specialized in playing with props, it was better to look at the people in the National Spy Organization who were involved in the production of spy materials. Seeing their ideas and the process of production was truly amazing. However, they could not show their talents on the screen. My arms are afraid of the wind. I'm afraid that the wind will blow my arms." Lu Feng obviously did not want to cancel out the function of the dice. "I'll ask someone to close the door," Zhang Xiaobao said. I mean, it's not okay to show your arms. Lu Feng continued to find excuses. Zhang Xiaobao nodded with understanding. Oh, I see. Then, let's use a dice cup and bet on the size of the dice roll. What do you think? Zhang Xiaobao's suggestion was very fair. One was to see the skill of the dice roll, and the other was to see the skill of the listening. It could also be said that it was a game of luck. Lu Feng didn't want to believe that the person who gambled with him had such good skills. Although he had won 3 rounds in a row with the dice, it could be attributed to good luck. After belittling his opponent infinitely in his heart, Lu Feng still shook his head. It's better to do it in the bowl. Others can see it clearly. Zhang Xiaobao smiled and did not correct him. What did he say? Could it be that others could not see the dice roll? Instead, he said okay and reached out to pick up 3 dice. Without any movement, a small knife appeared in his hand. The knife was thin and narrow, and the handle was very short. It did not have a sheath. The knife was 2 inches long, and the handle was more than half an inch. It was very strange. What knife? The people around saw Zhang Xiaobao's knife and were puzzled. Wang Wan narrowed her eyes. This kind of knife did not follow the principle of weight distribution of objects flying in the air, but Zhang Xiaobao had a special skill. When the knife flew up, it was 100% accurate within 20 meters. Even if the opponent had a gun, he was not afraid of within 20 meters. Of course, he would not be crazy enough to use a knife to hit the opponent's bullet. That would be a story, or it would be an accident. He would make a dodging action that the opponent could not aim at and shoot the knife to achieve his goal. No matter how unusual it was, Zhang Xiaobao was now doing something normal with the knife. He was drawing lines on the 3 dice in front of him. The dice were provided by the casino, and it was free, unlike the cockroaches that had to be bought. After drawing a cross next to each of the dice, Zhang Xiaobao threw the dice into the bowl with satisfaction. He smiled at Lu Feng and said, You can use the dice to throw into the bowl. I've made a mark in case you think I'm cheating. Lu Feng's hands, which were hidden in his sleeves, were tightly clenched into fists. He did not expect the opponent to be so experienced. He hesitated and said without any embarrassment, It's better to use the color cup. When I see the lines on the dice, I always feel uncomfortable. There are flaws. Oh. Okay, I'll listen to you. Who's going first? Zhang Xiaobao was still very easygoing. Xiaobei's eyes were smiling like peaches. She admired her brother's confidence. If it was not for Xiao Yuan's photographic memory, she probably would not be able to find a husband in the future. She would always unconsciously compare others with her brother. Whether it was her big brother's ability or Xiao Hai's arithmetic skills, they were deeply imprinted in her heart. In fact, Xiao Yuan was the most powerful among them. In another 10 years, he could transform into an encyclopedia at any time. He was even better than Zhang Song in the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms. I'll go first. Lu Feng did not have time to pay attention to the confidence in the eyes of Xiaobei and the other children. He reached out and picked up the color cup, swinging it left and right in front of him. He put the dice into the cup and shook it. After a few breaths, he threw it on the short table in front of him and looked at Zhang Xiaobao. Zhang Xiaobao was stunned. He took a deep breath and said slowly, You just dropped a dice. How? How do we calculate this? You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.